Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 11 and I'm joined as always by my good friends Villy.
Good evening.
And Jody.
Good morning.
Ooh, time zone shenanigans.
That's what we're about, shenanigans.
Of every variety. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing splendid.
You're not hungover, Villy? Was that fast?
Yeah, dog's breath. Let's just
Villy's always hungover.
It's a Sunday evening always.
All right.
And he is drinking a beer, so I mean, it's on brand for him to be.
Yeah, just
And you're drinking a Spanish beer. That really
Yeah.
is hijink shenanigans right there.
yep, it is.
Okay, guys, man, I am rearing to go for this week's episode. I know it sounds like I struggle to get those words out of my mouth because it's hard for me to quantify and express the excitement that I'm feeling, not necessarily for the content of this book, but judging from the pace at which we are moving along and the rate at which new people and plot lines and things are being introduced. I am just salivating thinking about the other 12 books in the series, right? Like we spoke about this before, how surprised we are at just how quickly these things are coming in. The Sean Chan and characters that we're going to read about that I've always considered as late additions, and they're right up front in book 2. Yeah. So I'm not going to mince my words too much. I think if I don't start talking about our current set of content, I am actually going to blow a fuse. So let's get into it. Was there anything you guys wanted to cover before we start harkening back to our previous episode and doing some callbacks?
No, I've ordered my Dragon Reborn book, so I just want to get done with the Great Hunt now. And that was one of my favorite books.
How far ahead are you now with the Great Hunt with your reading?
I'm on chapter 29, so I've just got I've got a good lazy Monday tomorrow. I might just wrap it up, see how the day goes.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, but before you do that, let us do the painstaking work of picking apart every single word that Robert Jordan has laid out before us here.
And then fumble over all of its meanings and get everything wrong. And mispronounce it all.
Let's misinterpret everything.
Well,
immediately.
the thing that I look forward to every episode is to see how many words I'm going to mispronounce.
I think that's why most people are listening.
Yes, exactly, Joe. Myself, you, and a large percentage of our listenership are all looking forward to hearing Villy mangle Robert Jordan's lovingly created words and phrases and names. So, on that note, I've got a list of callbacks to the previous episode here. The last one I had is something along those lines. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that in the last episode I started using the name Ibudar interchangeably with Aradoman. And if anyone was sitting there listening thinking, am I going crazy? Are they talking about Aradoman or Ibudar? It is Aradoman. Ibudar's got nothing to do with it yet. And if I had said it, then kindly find replace with Aradoman.
Ibudar is miles away.
Miles
like
and miles.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yes, not part of the fray just yet. Joe, one thing you said to me after we recorded our last episode is that you had a point you wanted to make about Swan and Moraine having these plans that they've been running for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And the thing that made them go, oh, shit, okay, I guess that's all out the window. It's just the stubbornness of the kids from Nynaeve and the Two Rivers.
Yeah.
By virtue of being as stubborn as rocks, they just shat all over their plans.
Yeah, that actually mentioned in the chapter that I did. That they mention it like, we never took into account the blood of Nynaeve is strong, plus the Emmons Fielders are just so stubborn that they've ruined our 20-year-old Aes Sedai plans.
It's amazing. I had a good chuckle when you told me that. We spoke about some of the people that we thought we saw at the quote-unquote Darkfriends social, and I was talking to you guys about the person that was walking dressed in the clothing of a Andorran royal guard. I told you guys and the internet thinks that could have been David Hanlon. you guys had very little to no recollection of who he was, and so I just did a bit of reading about him. And he's described as a hatchet-faced man with unblinking eyes. At one point, he's the captain of the guard in Camelin, and I think that's when Lord Gabriel, who was he, Robin?
Yes.
When he was sort of influencing the queen, this dark friend made his way up the ranks, obviously placed by Gabriel or Robin. I don't know if the timing of his appearance at the Darkfriends social fits with him being an Andorran guard, because if he's at the Darkfriends social in that uniform, you would expect him to already be part of the Queen's Guard. Maybe he's not the captain yet, but he's just in there, and later gets promoted by Lord Gabriel for being
a loyal dark friend.
having a heart of black smoke.
That's a new one.
I made the comment that I thought Liandrin was younger, like much younger than Moraine, and who was her friend that they were walking down the corridor with. Some other Aes Sedai of lesser importance.
One of the multitudes.
But I went and I actually looked up her age, and she's only 6 years younger than Moraine.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they have her actual birth year and Moraine's as well. Joe, you were right about Dharma Flynn. He can heal women, and only men can heal Stilling back to full potential. Women can't do it. And he's just known as being very good at healing. And I think, but Nynaeve is the one that actually heals Logain. So she heals Swan and Leanne and Logain. But Dharma Flynn is the guy that can heal them back up to full potential, where Nynaeve can't do that. And apparently that's across the board. Women can't do it, men can, and they give some glib reason for it, but whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I had you as one of the callbacks. Do we need to revisit whether Lan teaches Rand anything about the royal court? But that actually comes up in one of these chapters,
Yes.
so I'll leave it for then. Villy and I can butt heads and debate that point again till the cows come home. But that's all I had. Joe, did you have one callback?
I had a callback, yes, while going through these chapters. We said last time that the prophecy when Rand was born on the slopes of Dragonmount, that Moraine and Swan were in the room with the Amyrlin Seat, and then she died, but it wasn't her; it was her keeper that had the vision.
Tara Moroso.
Yes, okay, so not the Amyrlin died. The Amyrlin then saw that and then quested them to go and do that. So
what do we do with these two young ones that saw this big eventful thing? Well, put them to work.
Yeah. Put all the responsibility on their shoulders. All right, you two, go save the world.
Much like climate change. Oh yeah, we'll set a target for when we're well out of government.
Came out of nowhere. But anyway.
Woo, topical.
I'm feisty tonight.
we were almost right. We certainly have been more wrong.
Yes. No, that's pretty damn close. That's a win in my book.
Okay, so then I think that takes care of that. Let's get into the meat of this thing. We are now on chapter 6. I usually have a note here about where we left off last time, and honestly, I can't remember because everything sort of just blurs together in Fal Dara, right? Everyone's just milling about. Everyone's mostly Rand stressing out about the Amyrlin. So, yeah, let's start with chapter 6, The Dark Prophecy. And Jody, I think that's you. Take it away.
Oh, just leave it up to me then. I think where we left off, because I don't remember fully as well, is Egwene was hiding Rand.
Yeah, Rand was a jerk. That was the crux of where we ended off.
Right, yes. Okay. So then he went to try and hide because he couldn't get out. All right, now that's what I remember.
Didn't really capture the imagination those first couple of chapters.
No one remembers or cares.
Yeah.
But in this chapter, we start with Rand. He's in Egwene's room, and he's having a nightmare about being trapped in Emond's Field during the Trollocs attack, and he has this feeling of being trapped all the time. He's in the house, and that they're banging down the doors, and then he has a vision of all the different people, and Perrin's eyes are bleeding, and all kinds of crazy nightmarish shit. But anyway, he wakes up, and he's lying on the floor on a pallet in Egwene's room. She's not there. She's up to no good, visiting Fane. And but Nynaeve is there knitting and keeping an eye on him while he slept, and they have a good old chat about him hiding and how he should have left already, and that they're going to protect him. And I'm like, oh, cool, like Team Two Rivers, they're still sticking together and still helping each other out. Even though Nynaeve is going to go to the tower and become an Aes Sedai, she's by no means already on their side. She's on the side of the boys, and she's agreed to help and look after Rand and help him escape and all of that stuff. Like I said, Egwene's not there because she's gone down to the dungeons again to see Fane. But this is because she wants to help him. She's not trying to be an idiot, although it just seems to come naturally to these Two Rivers folk. But she's down there. These guys, especially the boys, they really are dumb. And then Nynaeve explains that something's up. Like she hears running around in the hallways, and everybody's out and about, and all the women, like everybody should be getting ready for the feast because the Amyrlin Seat's there. So Agelmar's arranged some big feast, obviously, but nobody's doing anything. All the women are searching. Even Lady Amelisa is in storerooms getting all dusty instead of getting ready. So something is up, and it's best that he just stay exactly where he is and not fumble about too much. They're going to keep an eye on him. He also notices, I know this is not, the most important detail, but that she's wearing a silk dress. And I just thought this is noteworthy because Rand's now got the coats and the girls are getting the silk dresses. And this is where everybody, like in book 2 already, they've left behind their sheep herder clothes and they're starting to dress like lords and ladies and Aes Sedai and all of that stuff.
Yeah, they've sufficiently leveled up now.
Yes. So now they've got the silks, they've got the new boots, except Matt and Perrin. Have you noticed? They are not too interested. They still got their humble clothes. And so Rand is talking about his plans to run away, and Nynaeve and everything's not so sure. She's like, listen, I don't trust this Aes Sedai, but it does seem like the Dark One's after you. And Rand's like, and he names the Dark One. I shall not name the Dark One. I'm not a fool. And he says, is dead. Just then, his head spins and he kind of topples over. Like the whole world spins as he names the Dark One. And then alarm bells start freaking out. You start chiming outside and everybody jumps up. And so, name the Dark One and you draw his attention to you is literally true in this world. So they stick their head out of the door, trying to figure out what's happening. And they're screaming and everyone's going crazy. And shadowspawn are attacking the keep. So we know at this point now that we assume it's Ingtar that's let them in, as we do know the future.
You don't seem convinced.
No, it seems like a very plausible thing. He's just, I don't know. We'll talk about this in a moment. So anyway, the keep's under attack. Rand realizes, holy shit, this is alarm bells. This is not them, somebody looking for him anymore. This is something else. And he thinks, oh shit, Egwene. So he grabs his sword and just dashes out the room. And he runs. As now he's in the women's apartments, by the way, which is not a normal thing up here in the north. So he's running through there in his leather jerkin shirt with a sword, freaking everybody out. And he first person he bumps into is the Amyrlin Seat as she's coming out. So Rand has this tendency to just be in places, meeting kings and queens and Amyrlin Seats all the time.
The irony for me there just is dumbfounding that they go and have a bath together. No matter what, bath time, free for all, hop in, tub's yours, share. But do not come into our apartments. Like, that's where we draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're talking and doing shit that you're not supposed to know about. It's all secrets.
Yes.
You got to be careful there. So anyway, he runs down. First he bumps into her, and she looks at him, and everybody's calling after him, and he's like, no, Egwene. So he's just fixated on helping Egwene, because we're under attack. She's in the dungeons with Fane. Something is bad. And then he bumps into a bunch of Trollocs as well. Now, this is where his training fails him horrifically. Everything that Land taught him goes out the window. He tries to fight the Trollocs, but they just get out the way. But luckily, he's saved by a bunch of Shinarian soldiers who actually do know how to use swords. And so he carries on running, goes around the corner, and then he bumps into a Fade. So it's in one hallway, it's Amyrlin Seat, 3 Trollocs, and a Fade within like 100 meters or several spans of each other.
Yeah, shit's going down.
But anyway, the Fade is standing there with just corpses littered around him. And I mean, Rand couldn't even fight one Trolloc. There's no way he's going to survive this. But luckily, right at that moment, Ingtar appears and tells Rand, this foe is beyond you. Get out of here. I'll take him. And then Rand runs away. Again. A lot of running away for the Dragon Reborn. Run away. So anyway, he arrives at the dungeons. Everything is quiet, which is not a good sign. I love how he does this little tuck and roll maneuver when he enters.
I have a note from that chapter that says Rand's action man entrance. Lol.
Everybody notices that. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you couldn't fight a Trolloc. You can't do anything anyway. What's the little roll into the room gonna help?
I played it out in my mind a couple times, like him kicking the door, rolling into the room, and then jumping up and then jumping, like looking in every direction at the same time, holding out his sword. There's no one in there.
Nobody. Except, there's leftovers of people in there. There's guards.
No body.
There's no body. There's several pieces of bodies lying around. Chunks of flesh, literally, are lying all over the place. The guards' heads are on the table. They've been decapitated. And of course, there is what I've now coined as blood script all over the walls.
I like it.
Oh, thank you very much. All of it written in like a language that Rand doesn't understand, like Trollocs, I suppose, and things like that. Trolloc script or whatever it's called. But there is something in the common tongue, and it's written, "We will meet again on Tommen Head. It is never over, Elthor." So directly message to him from Fane. He freaks out, of course. He starts grabbing straw off the floor to wash it off the wall. And just as he's doing that, old...
Fucking Liandrin.
I have choice words for her. She comes in and she catches him in the act. Now, granted, this is very suspicious looking. Everyone's fucking dead. He's the only one in the room holding a sword.
The wall.
Washing stuff off the wall. Destroying evidence. Like, granted. But she immediately grabs him with the one power, starts using it on him. And he's totally under the impression that she's trying to kill him. Like, she's like, "You will answer me." Yeah. So again, like, it's unfortunate that at this point he doesn't know that if she's capable of that, she's not bound by oath. So, at this point we know nothing. All right. So he just thinks, Aes Sedai are just the worst, and they are. So he eventually, at that moment, he's saved again by Moraine as she comes into the room and she's like, "Hey, what's all this then?" And Liandrin lets her go.
Hello. What's all this then?
Exactly that. I tried not to use that accent, but it was inevitable. So she saves him again. He's being saved a lot here. So as soon as he's dropped to the ground, he runs again to try and find his girl, Egwene. And on the way, he finds the other two prisoners in the cells, and they've gone completely bonkers. One of them is in the process of hanging himself with a belt. And that also leads to the question, what kind of cell keeper, prison watcher, guard lets a prisoner into the cell with a belt? Isn't that the first thing they take away from you? Shoelaces and belt.
They don't have TV. They haven't watched all the Oz and Law and Order episodes that we have.
That's exactly right. I mean, even I know you take away the prisoner's belt. So anyway, he is strangling himself to death. He's tied himself onto the bars. But lifting his feet, he could stand at any time, but he's just like, "No, fuck it, I'd rather die." And he kills himself right then and there. The other guy is this massive dude who's trying to claw through the walls with his bare hands until his fingernails are ripped off and there's just blood everywhere. So they've gone completely bonkers. Never a good sign. And so eventually he finds Egwene. He gets down to Payton Fane's cell, and the door's open. Fane's gone, and Egwene and Mat are lying on the floor unconscious. He thinks they're dead, obviously, but he sees them breathing. So that's all cool. It's fine. This will happen.
It's fine.
Yeah. So, of course, then Moraine just jumps in, pushes them out the way, tries to, what do they call it when they're, it's not probing. That sounds a little alien. When they're delving. That's
delving.
Delving. Yeah. Okay. So she delves just to see that everything's all right. Egwene's fine. She just needs to sleep. But the dagger's gone. Mat's dagger is gone, and obviously this is cause for concern. And she's like, and just then as well, some soldiers come running in. So she's like, "Hey, get some stretchers. Take this lady back to her room. She just needs to sleep." But this guy's straight to the Amyrlin Seat. And Liandrin's there going, "Hey," like, first off, like, the dagger's gone, going, "Wait, what dagger? What? Now you're taking him to the Amyrlin Seat?" She has all these questions, but of course she's just being ignored. And one of the soldiers that enters is, of course, Ingtar. And Rand asks him about the Fade, like, "Hey, did you kill that Fade?" He's like, "No, it got away." And I think here is where he starts overacting because
Mhm.
obviously him and the Fade are in cahoots with each other. And
Lovers even.
lovers even.
Damn.
Yes. Yes. So he's like slamming his sword back into the scabbard and like, oh damn it, and like just overplaying a little bit. I think like it got away, and I was, no, whatever. So yeah, it's become clear now that there's dark friends. Everyone knows there's dark friends in Fal Dara. That they came in, they were let in through the dog gate. The guards there were killed. Their throats were slit. So somebody that knew them came up to them, got close enough to slit their throats. Ingtar. And then, Ingtar, of course. Then also, then they ask these questions and like, yeah, but no one was supposed to leave because Rand was telling him about the orders, and Ingtar's like, what orders? Remember, Rand tried to leave early and was not allowed out because of some orders, and nobody knows anything about them. So the plot is thickening. And then as well, it's like, all right, so they start to leave, and in the room as well now we've got some more Aes Sedai. Varen is there with another brown. I forget her name. Is that not Seraphel?
Yes,
I think it's Seraphel, yeah.
Oh, okay. And they already got their little booklets out, and they are translating and writing shit down like nerds, nerding out. Yeah, completely. So on his way out, he meets Lan. Everybody's now down in the dungeons. It's a real dungeon fest. And he tells him, like, all right, listen, we've taken your stuff back to your rooms. It's like, how do you guys know all this stuff? And he's like, oh, Moraine knows lots of things, buddy. So all your stuff is back in your rooms. That was you were trying to escape. Just go back there and wait for everybody. But Moraine said you can leave at any time. So right after this massive attack and everything's gone to shit, oh, you can go anytime you want, which is a bit weird, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, and that's basically where we leave it, with him heading back to the rooms. Ingtar in there, and everyone dead, and Varen and them taking notes. I think I've covered everything, but there may be some talking points in there.
No, there's one major one for me. Yeah.
Same. Let's see if it's the same one.
Rand leaves running through the ladies' apartments, the women's apartments, sword in hand, into the Amyrlin Seat, into the Trollocs, into the Fates, all in the name of Egwene. And then gets into the dungeon and then worries about washing the wall, and only later notices the two of them lying passed out and head crushed in on the fucking floor. Like, what the fuck, Rand? Like, what's happening?
I think Matt and Egwene are in a separate room from that one. I think they passed through that room. In fact, isn't the stuff that that Fane scrawled on, isn't not on a door?
Yeah.
I thought it was in his cell, the cell that Fane was in.
No, it's in that anteroom, that guard room before you get to the cells themselves. It's in there where the two heads are on the table and the chunks of meat are lying.
Right. So he found the script first before he was in a room where they potentially were.
He saw the script, and I mean, it's directly addressing him, written in the blood of these decapitated Shinarans. So yes, he got distracted from his Egwene search because of this highly incriminating piece of evidence scrawled on the wall in the blood of innocents.
And where everyone's going.
Yeah.
That is not the big glaring thing that stood out to me, Vili.
Oh.
The big glaring thing that stood out to me is that when Liandrin walks in and she sees Rand doing that, she starts probing him and asking him for his name. Liandrin has been shown an image of Rand and Mat and Perrin. She knows exactly who they are. She knows exactly what she should be doing with them. Her entire presence in Fal Dara is overshadowed by this need to find Rand. Like, she's set Lady Amelisa and, like half her staff on finding Rand. Like, her goals are super clear. But when she comes into the room, she's sort of questioning Rand about who he is and what he's doing there. I just thought, like, shouldn't she have on sight gone, aha,
I got you.
the sheep herder from
That's
the
one
Two
of the
Rivers
guys I was showing.
die.
Yeah.
Yes.
You were one of the holograms floating in the
Exactly.
Darkfriends social.
Exactly. So I don't know. Like, it seemed odd to me that she would be so. I don't know why she was trying to get Rand to say who he was. I mean, she did channel against him and use it as a weapon. I mean, she was causing him pain, so she must have felt some license to sort of drop her guard already. So maybe she was preparing to just do the final act once he confirmed who he was.
let's not discard that she takes pleasure in causing and inflicting pain in others.
True.
Like, after she is a dark friend, so
Maybe she doesn't know their names. Maybe, I mean, in the social, in Dark Friends social, do they get given the names as well? But they get shown
But
3
then,
images.
what would Rand telling her his name mean to her then? Like, why even question him? She should have known who he was on sight. But Elzamon has made very certain that everybody knows exactly what they look like, and then she walks into him.
well, maybe she didn't pay attention. Maybe she was on
Maybe she's
wine or something.
short-sighted. I don't know.
Maybe his back was turned to her. Maybe she didn't see his face.
We're giving her a lot of leeway here. Or should I say, Robert?
Way too much leeway for a piece of shit. Anyway, moving on.
Yes. No,
I'm
just
kidding.
didn't click with
No.
me.
There's also a little chat outside the door with Lan. And he's like, no, the women were freaked out by you being in the apartments, but they're actually more intrigued by you. Everyone saw you and went, hey, I want to tame that one. I want him for myself. Lady Amelisa's making plans for him. Everybody's like, ooh, that Southern Lord. Everybody thinks he's because he is a very suspicious dude. He doesn't listen to anybody or take any orders, and
He looks like an Aielman.
he looks like an Aielman. He carries a heron marked sword. He's clearly an outlander. He's very young. Like, it's lots of suspicion. And
Chumming it up with Lord Agelmar
Yeah.
and this Aes Sedai, and yeah, he's a very intriguing character.
They all think that the Aes Sedai are hiding the truth and that he's actually some southern lord. And well, little do they know.
Oh, little
If
did
only
they
he
know.
was just some southern lord.
When he's running through the women's apartments, it really hit me this time for the first time, as opposed to previous reads, where Rand he's avoiding the Aes Sedai in Fal Dara because he literally thinks his life depends on it.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks that Moraine and all the Aes Sedai are the same, and she knows that he can channel, and he is trying desperately to get out of their little sphere of influence.
Yeah.
So when he's running down the corridor, dodging Aes Sedai and trying not to be stopped by the Amyrlin Seat and stuff, he's actually genuinely fearing for his life, which is not something that I think really was impressed upon me the first times I read the story. I mean, you walk into these fantasy series reading about the hero, and you sort of, you quote unquote know that they're going to be okay because
Yeah.
they have to see the story through. But yeah, he's genuinely fearing for his life. This sort of new perception manifests later in these chapters, and I'll get to that when we do as well. But it's just now in my I can say this now because I'm almost completely gray. In my older age, I am appreciating certain aspects of the story a lot more than I did when I was a teenager. When I was just like, yeah, super magic sword guy, he can run and kill the biggest bad guys and he's fine, don't worry about him. But Rand is worried about him. He is worried about himself, and he thinks he's going to die.
Yeah, and he
Or
assumes
worse.
that Moraine has told all the other Aes Sedai, like everyone's
Yes,
aware.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they're going to gentle him. That's the end of
Yeah.
it. Totally, that's true.
I've got a couple more here, but I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Mm.
So
Oh, well,
I got
I just
nothing,
think
so
there's
go
there's
ahead.
much more that he could have done in the woman apartments than just hide out.
there's Billy. There he is. True colors.
Yeah, these are still the PG books. Later on, we get into the adults only sections, but he's still a kid. Remember, he's never even
Yes.
kissed a girl.
Yeah.
Well, he missed all his chances
Um,
with Elsie.
Well, Elsie's mom saw to that. Let me ask you guys this. Did the Fade know that Ingtar was a dark friend?
I assume so. I mean, he came face to face with him, and then he was fine afterwards.
In the corridor, when Ingtar rocks up and Rand is facing the Fade changes his stance to deal with Ingtar first.
Yes.
So either he and Ingtar are part of an elaborate ploy to dupe Rand, or they are actually about to engage in mortal combat with a K.
Mortal Kombat. No. I think that maybe they didn't. Maybe the Fade didn't know Ingtar was a dark friend, but then as soon as Rand left, he went, "Hey, and maybe showed him his dark friend badge or something. I don't know.
quickly pledged his allegiance
Code
to the Dark One.
words or something,
But
like, "No, I'm a
Fates
dark friend."
tend to know where all the dark friends are. They go to them.
Fades are intelligent.
Yeah, they
they're
they
smart.
operate.
They're like humans that just don't have eyes and they've got superpowers.
Mm. Let's
Just like
assume
humans.
they sort of plugged into an intranet and they get all the information. Straight download. Like, oh yeah, there's one of my mates. Or there's one of my servants.
I have a spreadsheet of all the dark friends, where they are.
Here's one of my subordinates. Maybe this is the appropriate time to say that I actually quite like fades. Like, they're actually kind of cool.
Really?
In these chapters, we also I think it's Swan refers to them for the first time as a lurk, which is also a cool name.
Yes. Now, please, Moritz, go back to that. Define like.
They're just badass. They got badass
All right.
black blades, and they got this like black scale armor, and the cloaks that don't move in the wind, and they're not scared of anything. They sort of like have this vicious smile for anyone they're about to murder. It's just that they're just badass, you know.
Okay.
I don't want to be a fade. I'm just like, okay.
Yes, that kind of like, yes.
And they play them up a lot in the text as well as being incredibly dangerous. Like even the worms that were chasing them in the blight at the end of the Eye of the World land immediately to sort of set everyone's fear levels to the appropriate level for worms. He's like, you know, even a fade doesn't stand a chance against these things. Like they're used as sort of like a barometer for
Maybe you just refer
threat
to them as the warders of the dark side.
Well, they are that. I mean, like a fade meets warders blow for blow.
I think warders are actually like a notch below fades.
It's only Lan that happens to be a blade on legs that openly invites conflict with them.
Yeah, because I mean, really, out of all the warders, we only really know one warder, and that's Lan at this point. So we're comparing all warders to Lan, and that's unfair because they are not all Lan.
No.
Not to be trifled with, obviously, more so than the average soldier or blade master or anything like that. But still,
no one told Tom that. No.
And also, you got to remember that Lan was trained by Elias, so there's also other people out there that could easily handle a fade, but not many.
No, they are few and far between. That's for sure.
And they're all old men.
Yes, I had a couple more notes here, but the majority of them are actually addressed later in later chapters. Like one of them is, I wonder why Robert Jordan spared Chengu and his other guard buddy, like why they weren't the heads that you find on the table.
That comes up in mine now.
We come to that.
Chengu and Nai something.
Nasau? No, that could be an Aes Sedai surname.
Chengu and Nidao.
I was one letter off.
There we go. Changu.
And well pronounced, really.
I don't know. Is it Chang? No, it's a Changu.
In that pronunciation, you changed every other letter apart from the H. Is it Chengu? Oh, no, wait, that's an H. Changu.
So all the vowels are now different.
Hey,
anyway.
Languages are difficult. This is my second language, and now I still got to teach my kid Mandarin. It's all of this is doing my head in. Wang Shao Hao.
This is a very laughy episode so far for the amount of murder that's happening.
There's so much murder. We've got to get all through all the murder still.
So much murder coming up, people. Stay tuned.
Speaking of murder, let's head to the next chapter. Blood calls blood. Philly, why don't you open that dark door for us?
That can of blood. Yeah, why not? Blood calls blood.
Murder blood.
All right, so
blood it up.
This is sort of after the big storm or the big siege or the dark friend is coming into the keep there. But we're back in the Amyrlin Seat's chamber, and Matt is being carried out on a litter, and they perform some healing on him, and as well now perform some additional healing for the Aes Sedai. So it was Moraine Swan, Varen, and someone else, Lian. And they had the Ungreal with them, and they tried to do as much as they could, sort of repairing what was damaged on him, obviously, in that incident. But also now that the dagger is gone and they know that the dagger has been taken. So, yeah, they did it, and sort of Varen saying, oh, this is nasty business. You know, he's he's going to die if they don't get that dagger back. Moraine is obviously some of her plans foiled over there, and look, they basically agreeing that this can still be broken, but it's going to be essential, and it may only be months. So Matt has got a sentence to find the dagger or bring it back for some more channeling, or otherwise it's going to be the end of it for him. So they then start talking about everything, and Varen pulls out obviously her notebook, sort of as a detective style, what she noted. Starts going through, the script was sort of the normal Trolloc, blasphemy and boasting and all of that, but then one was more an educated hand, or an educated darkfriend, or maybe a Madral. Maybe it was just taunting, but it had a form of poetry or a bit of song or whatever. And she's like, it sounded prophetic in nature. And it starts off obviously with the first big one there, the daughter of the night, she walks again. Dum dum dum. And ancient wars are yet to be fought, and she's seeking a new lover, and he will serve her and die, but yet he'll serve, and sort of going on through a lot of blood spiel, blood feeds blood, blood calls blood, and all of that. And then the big one, blood. The man who channels stands alone. He gives his friend as a sacrifice, his friends as a sacrifice, and this whole big thing. Now Luke is named in there, and Isam as well. Both of them named in this part, which is quite interesting, because now Luke, I remember you saying, Morris, Luke and Isam are now one person.
They are Slayer.
They are Slayer. That's in the I'm going to say that, the World of Dreams.
Yes, that's what I do in the World of Dreams. But they can pass in and out of the World.
Yeah,
of
they
Dreams
can hop in and out. Yeah, and then the Watchers wait in Toman's head, and the seed of the hammer burns the ancient tree. And death shall be sown, the summer will burn before the great Lord comes. Death shall be reaped, the bodies will fail before the great one comes. Again, the seed slays ancient wrong before the great one comes. And then sort of comes to an end. A lot of talk about the great one and the great Lord that's going to come. And sort of the Swan then sort of starts questioning about like who else saw this first. And it's just like, it's only me and Sarah Fell, but the two Browns are nose and book type of thing. And she sort of starts dissecting it. Sort of Lanfear and the Old Tongue is daughter of the night, so that brings her into the story now. And that's sort of a bit of to and fro, and she carries on sort of what the Watchers waited time and head. Who could that be? A lot of speculating, and through all of this, Moraine is kind of like, ooh, like a little bit too much, a little bit of spanners in the work. Like, it would have been better if I didn't see it.
I just pictured when you said that Varen telling the story and Moraine standing behind her going, ooh, to make it sound spookier.
No, it's like, ooh, shit. And then she says, literally, and of course, Varen said calmly, the man who channels must be one of the young men traveling with Moraine. It's kind of mic drop. It's like, oh, shit. And just before then, she's like, oh, yeah, Moraine was thinking, oh, these Browns, they're not aware of the world at all. And then all of a sudden, oh, my shit, not aware of the world. I'm a fool. And at that moment, her and Swan both just grabbed, sort of reached for the source. And there's this moment like, shit, do we actually have to out one of our own sisters here? I don't know what they were thinking. Were they going to be able to kill her? Were they going to...
They weren't thinking.
They weren't thinking, it was
uncharacteristically Aes Sedai move of freaking out and grabbing the source. Like, normally they're so calm and collected, and obviously another channeler will see the glow and feel them channeling and all that stuff. So it wouldn't be a secret.
Well, this is exactly what happened then, because for that sort of, now there's no doubt. Varen's like, all right, awesome.
Yeah. All they did was confirm it.
Varen is fucking sharp, dude. All that nose and book stuff is a facade. She knows what.
She's on point, but she calms them down, sort of as the sit down talk, and like, yeah, obviously, yes, I suppose I should have thought that, but we have to learn. Like, when does the madness come? What is now another word for me to stuff up? Carithian cycle of this whole process. So that kind of, all right, okay, Varen is not going to run, because she's like, well, obviously, Mother, you'd be still, and Moraine, you'd be stilled for this, and he'll be made a martyr for all of this. But I'm not always on the side of what the Reds have done. It's quite a bit of it comes out sort of how, and a little bit later, and how the Reds actually like culling the gene pool of good blood.
Yes.
So yeah, that she then assumes then and mentions, just like, I assume that he's the Dragon Reborn. Then this must be the Dragon Reborn, like, and yeah, that moves on, and they kind of get to the agreement, sort of like, all right, let's leave it at this. Like, don't talk about it. But story cuts away from there, and we're back to Perrin, and Perrin's babysitting Matt, or trying to babysit Matt, and he gets chased out or chased away quite frequently by one of the Aes Sedai that smells of lavender soap. So everything around Perrin is now smells. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
He picks up everything now. His dog nose now is really sniffing out all of it.
Wolf nose, dog nose.
He's quite tame still, so could technically be a dog.
Puppy nose.
But yeah, he eventually sees the Aes Sedai leaving, and he gets to Matt and sort of has a conversation with himself. But Matt actually wakes up, and sort of they get around to what's happening, but he's coming to it. And just not a hell of a lot of big things in that part. Just, yeah, Matt's there, that happened. Yeah, like, I don't have much notes of that section.
Matt's there, that happened.
Like, you look as healthy as the Aes Sedai that moved back in. I forget her name now. Was it Liane? She had a little take to Perrin, sort of. Oh, if I was 30, maybe even a little older, I would have made you a water, and if I was a green. And she quite liked the look of Perrin, and she called him, "You're as healthy as a young wild animal."
Yeah, doesn't she delve him? She grabs
She delves
him,
him, yeah.
delving,
Sees what's up with him, and those eyes. The eyes draw attention to him now the whole time, and he's not quite liking that. And then that little storyline ends, and we jump to Rand, who's now lying on the bed, uncomfortable and just upset with life in general. Like, what's he got to do now? And Perrin comes to the room, and he's still trying to apologize for being jerk Rand in the previous encounter when he was all lordy. But he again asks after Matt and just wants to know that Matt is okay. So he still does care about his friends. He was just a bit of a jerk in trying to push them away, I guess. And again, sort of says the wrong thing to Perrin, that he still has to leave and they after him. But then Perrin's like, also, no, but he's getting the same story that Liandrin's after him. So there's definitely that whole circle. Like, Liandrin doesn't know quite what she's after, because she's sending her little spies and people that she's manipulating in the keep or in Fal Dara there to look for all the boys. So it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know how that.
I think she's tasked with finding all three of them, right? Like, they were all those little holograms.
Yeah. So no one knows who's being looked after, but everyone's got their own little paranoid situation around that. And Matt then sort of upsets Perrin, and Perrin goes, slams the door, and leaves the room. And before Rand can have a too long thinking session, there's a knock at the door, and in comes Lan.
Before Rand can brood too much longer.
Yeah, you can get some more. Looking at his bags that's packed, and I should run. Oh drama, oh drama.
Shaking his head at his new coats that he packed.
New beautiful coats and his silken garbs. Yeah. Well, Lan walks in and is like, "Oh well, too late now for anything like that. You've been summoned to the Amyrlin Seat." And he's like, "No, you can get away now. You'll get a horse and you'll run, and it will be 2 hours before anything." And he's like, "No, it doesn't work like that. Not when she summons you. Not a king, not a queen. Doesn't matter. Even the Pedronel, what is he? The Lord Captain Commander.
Lord Captain Commander, yeah.
Even he will come if he's summoned. So there's no getting away from this. This is, you do this. Get up, get dressed." Like, and you noticed Lan is now dressed sort of much more formally as well. He's got the golden, was a ribbon, a
cord
knotted in an intricate.
He's got ribbons in his hair.
Arm.
Yeah, he's done up, and he sees his Malkiri, what do you call it, signals or
signet.
Signet.
He's got a He's got the
Seven
the
Towers.
golden crane pin
Yeah. That's
on
right.
the golden cord on his shoulder.
So he picks out some fancy clothes, a silk shirt for Rand, and he looks at the boots. The boots get quite a bit of comment because the previous one, Rand was also like, "Oh, my other boots were good, but these are better." Like he likes the boots. So he's like, "No, those will do," and sort of get into a different shirt. And he picks out, I think it was the red.
Doesn't matter.
Was he folding his arms beneath his breasts as well?
Also puts the same cord around Rand's arm and then gives him the Manetheren. That's it, the hawk?
Red Eagle.
And it's sort of all very formal and sort of like, yeah, you got to go through all of this. And this is why I said I thought he trained him. Like he's
but he is training him. Yeah, there's no doubt. Gary's giving him points.
This instance, okay, let's get into it. In this instance, he is training him. He says to him, "Remember, you kneel when you go before her. Only one knee, mind. And maybe you had better practice it." And then Rand says to him, "I watched how the Queen's guards knelt to Queen Morghese." So Rand is saying right here that the previous time he was just doing what everyone else was doing around him. And right here, Lan is like, this is what you need to be doing.
Okay.
Maybe you should be practicing this. So in this instance, yes. And Swan also does comment on it, which is probably the thing that's stuck in your mind. Like, have you let Lan?
Yeah. Now that makes more sense. Now I should stop reading ahead, but I should carry on reading ahead.
Don't worry, I'll keep you on track.
That's good. You can call it out. I'm ready every day. But yeah, he preps him now, and I mean, Rand is probably shitting himself at this stage now. He really wanted to bolt, but also not really because he had a whole month to bolt before this, so it's kind of a bit of a catch-22 there. But yeah, old Sheepherd is now dressed up, and he's going for his audience with Amyrlin Seat, ready to go. Not in belly, and Rand followed the warder down the hall.
One of the things that Lan says to him to do is to only accept water, and when you do, to drop a couple drops on the ground.
3 drops on the ground.
This one's for my homies. No, he says the thing you're supposed to say is, what is it? The land thirsts or something like that.
Something like.
Is that an Aiel thing that he's teaching him?
Well, it sounds pretty much water and drops and.
Yeah. I mean, is he trying to teach Rand a bunch of stuff that's gonna fuck with the Amyrlin Seat's mind? Like
my note is literally, is Lan fucking with Swan?
Yeah, like is he doing this on purpose? Oh, and then like say some stuff in the old tongue, and then do this, and like, why are you?
He does have a line later where he says, even if you surprise them so that they don't think of you as just a sheep herder that they can control, you have won a small victory. In a couple of these chapters, Lan really comes out of his skin to show Rand that he does actually care for him in some capacity and is actually trying to do right by Rand, regardless of what the Aes Sedai schemes are. And that is, I mean, I'll get to it now in the chapter that I'm going to do as well, but that is immediately evident in like how he's talking to Rand on the way to the Amyrlin and the stuff that he teaches him to do in front of her, and the fact that it catches Swan by surprise.
Oh, big time! That's actually the next chapter. That's yours. That's a very exciting one.
Yeah,
I think we've glossed over the most important part of this chapter, and that is what is the difference between a heron and a crane?
Well, it's a different bird species, Jody.
He's wearing the golden crane of Melchior and a heron-marked sword. Aren't those two birds exactly the same thing?
No. A crane is not a water bird. It's a land bird. A heron is a water bird, and it eats the water like fish and frogs and all of that. With this long, stalky legs, snake neck. Where a crane is a snake-leg long type bird, but they eat insects and things off
so it's
the
their
land.
Diet.
They're just
right.
different sizes, different habitats.
I do bet, though, that it would be pretty difficult to distinguish between the two if you are looking at a silhouette on a small pin on someone's collar or shoulder.
To the untrained eye, I could see that. But to the trained eye, if I saw a blue crane, which is a South African national bird silhouette, versus the grey heron, I would pick that up. the bulbous type hair, thicker feathers, and the fact that the one is double the size.
Vili, you're going completely against the premise of this entire show where we are supposed to be ill-informed and complete idiots, and here you are dropping real knowledge on us.
Yes, this will not do. Moritz, edit all of this out.
Yes. Okay, well, there you have it, Joe. The most important question in the chapter answered.
Thank you very much.
What else? Anything?
No, not that. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, the biggest part is really Varen and that
Yeah.
whole exchange
Yes,
there.
and that prophecy.
It's kind of like it sets up a lot. Like all of a sudden, it's not just Matt and Swan anymore. Sorry, Moraine and Swan. It's now, oh hell, Varen has figured this out all by herself, just with her nose stuck in the book. She's like, I just assumed this and this and this and that. Like, oh,
She's smart.
Mm.
She's smart.
But I mean, she's not the only smart Aes Sedai. So if Varen's figured it out, other people are going to figure it out or have already. And the longer they stay there altogether, the greater the risk that someone's going to figure it out as well. So
Varen actually brings up the fact that she had her suspicions about what Swan and Moraine were doing 20 years ago.
yeah,
She was already suspicious of their behavior then. And this thing she just did when they reached for the source, she's like, okay, cool. This confirms that thing I've been hanging on to for 20 years. Swan makes mention of the fact that Varen was the one that left sweet cakes and stuff out for them. So there's like a personal connection there, which I found comforting, especially knowing that Varen is Black Archer. Like, yeah, it's good to know that, at least there is something beyond their assumed alliance, because they are Aes Sedai. That is sort of holding them together, because this thing that Varen has now happened upon, or this, this fact that she has now confirmed, is incredibly dangerous. As we said, like, Swan and Moraine would be stilled and, exiled if anyone found out that they were even trying to do anything like this. And now suddenly Varen is right in the mix. From the beginning of book 2, this Black Archer member knows exactly who the Dragon Reborn is. She is tasked by Moiraine at various stages to actually assist Rand.
But she's double agent Black.
Yes, but she is still also Black Archer.
she would still have to follow orders, and she wouldn't want to blow her cover. So, like, how does she balance that? I suppose we just have to read the next 12 books and find out.
But if she's then Black Archer, she would have had that oath rod removed from her, the bond
she's not bound by the 3 oaths.
Yeah, she's not bound by the 3 oaths, so she could lie either way
easily. But Moraine and Swan don't know that.
Yeah, was she Black Archer 20 years ago? I wonder how long she's been Black Archer.
Send us an email at bloodandashes.com.
I don't know if she's necessarily. I don't know if she's Black Archer right now. Like I said, I suspect that the Aes Sedai at the Darkfriends social was her, but maybe when we get to the book where it's revealed that she is Black Archer, there is a hint of how long it has been. But she's older. I think she's got grey in her hair.
She's quite a bit older.
So she's been kicking around for a while. Okay, should we move along?
Yeah,
indeed.
Okay, then we will go to chapter 8. The name of the chapter is The Dragon Reborn.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes,
that's it.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Big things. So we joined Lan and Rand as they're walking down the corridor on the way to the Amyrlin's apartments. Kajin, one of the sort of Shinaran guards, salutes them with a Taishar Malkir, and then also Taishar Manetheren as they're walking. So he either knows that Rand is from the ancestral, homeland of Manetheren, or he's actually recognized the red eagle on his pin.
He recognized it.
Yeah. And while they're walking, just before they round a corner to get to where they would be greeted by their escorts in the women's apartments, Lan suddenly just shouts, "Cat crossing the courtyard!" And Rand instinctively assumes the sword pose and walk. And Lan has done it to create this image that Rand is confident and loose and ready. And, I think they describe it as Rand being pulled by a wire that's attached to his spine. So he's standing up straighter and taller. His limbs are loose. But I thought that was such a cool mechanism that Lan used there to get him to look more like Lan is really trying hard to have Rand create a great impression.
Lan's totally got his back.
So then, totally. So when they get handed over to the escorts through the women's apartments, they're escorted by actual ladies of the court and not by servants. So they are being shown an honor in the ladies' apartments to be escorted by actual ladies of the court. And when they get to the Amyrlin's apartments, obviously Leanne is outside at the door, guarding the door, and she immediately flirts with Rand. Talking about how the ladies should watch out for this one. But Rand responds to her with the sort of formal forms that Lan has imparted on him. And it catches Leanne by surprise, exactly as Lan has designed. So Leanne's response is, I suppose the blacksmith will wear a crown and speak in high chant.
Yes.
Which is a funny image to think of Perrin that way. But then she says to Lan that he has to stay outside. And as she sort of lets Rand in the door and is about to close the door on Lan, Lan gives one more Taisha Manetheren, like as a little boost of confidence for Rand. Remember, you are the true blood of Manetheren.
Yeah.
And that just really it warmed my heart to know that Lan is so invested. And it made me feel more confident about Rand's audience. So it worked on me. Thanks, Lan. So then when Rand walks in, the only people in the room are Swan, Moraine, and Varen. So my note there is Varen right in the mix, right? So, she's now one of the 3 only Aes Sedai that know that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, if you don't count all the Black Aes Sedai that have been told. And then Rand sort of uses those proper forms again to greet Swan. He says things like, the watch is not done and I stand ready for what comes. And that obviously catches Swan by surprise. So Swan just starts off by asking Rand about his heron mark blade and how a sheep herder would come to have this. And Moraine chimes in and she says, look, this was given to him by Tam al-Thor. And then she launches into Tam's story.
Yeah.
About what his actual history is. And the abbreviated version is Tam left the 2 rivers when he was a boy. So Tam is from the 2 rivers. So he has the blood of Manetheren coursing through his veins and making him good and stubborn. And he joined the army of Ilion, where he served in 3 wars. 2 wars with... It's actually 4, but we'll get there. Because he served in 2 wars with Tyr, the White Cloak War, and then obviously also eventually the Aiel War. So he did his tours of duty for Ilion, where he also rose to the rank of Blade Master and obviously earned his sword. He achieved the rank of 2nd Captain of the Companions. Yeah. And the Companions are an elite squad of Ilion soldiers. They were the ones that were sent into where the fighting was the hottest, they were the ones thrown in to sort of sway the tide of battle. And they did that at one point when they, when Matan Stepanios or whatever the name, the king of Amyrlin, or not Amyrlin, Altara, is kidnapped. The Companions alone thwarted the White Cloak attack and saved the Ilion army or the Amyrlin army that they were traveling with. They stayed back and sort of held off all the White Cloaks. So that would have been Tam, right? Tam fought in the White Cloak War in the Companions, and he did that. So he is a decorated soldier with command who is a blade master. Like, he's not just a soldier that was in the Ilion army. He was the man. He then served in the Aiel War, and he returned to the 2 rivers with a wife from Camelin and an infant boy. And Rand is just floored by the story, right? Like, he knows snippets of this, obviously little bits of this sort of synchronized with some of the stuff that Tam was sort of babbling in his fever when Rand was pulling him through the forest on winter night. So Swan asks Varen to check, is there a way of knowing that this is a true Blade Master blade? And Varen says there are ways of it being tested, and she's about to take it. And Rand obviously just rejects that idea. Like, you won't take this from me. No one's touching the sword. This is my dad's sword. And then they sort of just transitions into another conversation, which Swan tells Rand that Matt and Perrin are going to be riding with Ingtar to hunt down the horn that was stolen and the thieves that stole it, plus the dagger, and that the girls are going to Tar Valon. He's free to go and do as he pleases. The Ingtar is going to be riding in a couple of hours. Rand can leave right now. He can go with Ingtar if he wants. He can go to Tar Valon. He can do what he wants. So Rand immediately says he'll go with Ingtar. He says, I'll go help Matt retrieve the dagger and the horn, and then obviously thinks then from there on he will just disappear. But Swan asks him about his channeling outright, and Rand is stunned. He's at that stage only suspected that Moiraine would have told the other Aes Sedai, but now it's coming out of the Amyrlin's mouth. The Amyrlin Seat knows that he can channel, and all the weight of what that means is crashing home for him. So he just declares that he's never going to channel again. And Swan says, well, that's admirable and probably a good idea, but it's definitely going to happen. There's no way that you're going to be able to control this. And he will need to learn how. But Rand says, how am I supposed to do that? Moiraine alleges that she can't teach me, and there's no other male channelers around that could teach me. And Moiraine just says, look, the male channelers that could have taught you have been dead for 3,000 years. I was speaking the truth. Like, a fish can't teach a bird to swim and a bird can't teach a fish to fly. And that launches Varen into, well, I've always thought that was a silly saying because blah, 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 blah. And everyone just shoots her a glare and she's like, oh, yes, okay, sorry, doing it again. I'll shut up now. And in that moment, Rand assumes the void, the flame in the void, to try and sort of collect his thoughts and take control of the conversation again, while the women are sort of distracted by this fish and bird distraction that Varen has provided. And he just, because in the calm of the void, he just says, why are you guys talking like this? I should be gentled. And that's when Swan goes, did Lan teach him this? Because she can see that he has changed and that he has assumed the void. And Moiraine says, no, this is something that he learned from Tam. This is something that obviously Blade Masters use. It's a technique. And I'm going to pause quickly. I'm pretty sure that at least in the beginning, Rand's ability to channel is directly linked with him being able to find the void. Like whenever he's, when he does actually start trying to channel, or when he's assumed the void, that is when he has been able to channel. So I wonder if Swan sort of like saw that happen and was like, uh-oh, he's not going to channel now. Like he's cool, right?
Like the same as the girls that think of their flower blossom.
Yes.
When they start learning how to reach out. Like he had that focus or that intense flame centralizing everything that just opened him up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder when it really started. Like we know as early as Bella's healing, but maybe there was
when he destroyed Samuel-Hake's inn, he did a massive channeling, and that's when he got the channeling sickness as well. But Swan tells Rand, look, you are the Dragon Reborn. And Rand rattles off the names of Rowland Darksbane and Euron Strongbow, or whatever their Strongbow is a cider. But he rattles off all those false dragon names. And the Amyrlin and Moiraine and those guys are shocked that he knows those names. They ask him point blank, like, where did you learn those names? And Rand says it was from Tom, but was it actually from Tom, or did Beelzemon rattle off some of those names to Rand in a dream? And the Rand then said those names to Tom, and Tom said, no, don't say those names. Those are dangerous names. But I'm pretty sure that it was Beelzemon that actually told him the names originally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Swan just says, no. This is no false dragon malarkey. You are the Dragon Reborn. And so she tells Moiraine to tell the story. It's story time again. Moiraine tells the story about the keeper for the seals back in the day, 20 years ago, that we said in the callbacks earlier, was the one that had the foretelling and died. She had the foretelling when Rand was born on Dragonmount. In that moment, she was saying, he draws his first breath, he is born. the world should tremble in fear, and then she fell over dead. And again, Rand is matching up the details of Moraine's story with the stuff that Tam had been saying in his fever dreams. And then Moraine goes on to say that they've been searching for 20 years, just sort of like, from the Aiel War, they sort of followed this one story of a soldier that left Dragonmount with an infant boy. And they spent the last 20 years trying to track down that child with not a lot to go on. The prophecy says, or I can't remember, it was the foretelling that said that the boy would be of ancient blood and raised by the old blood. So obviously Rand being, Dashane Aiel is the ancient blood and raised by the old blood, Tam being from Manetheren. So that all fits the prophecy. But Rand struggles to accept the truth, and he asks what they'll do with him. And Swan says nothing. You're free to go. And it is only the three of them in that room that know he is the Dragon Reborn. So Rand says a formal goodbye. And as he leaves, the three Aes Sedai in the room sort of sigh with relief. They just sort of like, okay, hectic. Didn't see things going like that. He truly is super, super stubborn. And he is he's going to be a formidable person to deal with in the future. And I mean, you could see that in the way, especially after he assumed the void, right? Like just the way that he spoke to them, and the way that he carried himself with all the accoutrement that Land provided. He would have been quite a sight with his power wrought heron mark blade and his Manetheren, royal pin, and the fact that he is the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, that counts for us.
Oh, that's the biggest thing there, right over there.
Yeah. So after that meeting, we cut to Nynaeve, who can sense a storm coming, but she can't see anything. So, as a wisdom, she sort of like can, quote unquote, talk to the wind and can sense weather patterns, that sort of stuff. She's got some affinity with the weather, but there's no sign of a storm coming. But she catches a glimpse of Rand storming out of the Amyrlin's chambers, and quite rightly guesses that if there's an unseen storm coming, he surely is at the eye of it. She tries to follow him around, but she sort of loses him through the hallways. But then she has a bit of inner conflict about leaving Eamon's Field without a wisdom. And there's a lady from Devon Ride that's sort of filling in for her, but it's not permanent, and blah, blah, blah. And as she's looking for Rand, she sort of happens upon Land looking out of one of the arrow slits into the courtyard at the people preparing to ride out. And they have a pretty frank conversation where he also gives Nynaeve the royal Malkiri signet ring, which I remember because, Nynaeve sort of carries it on I think she carries it on a chain around her neck for the rest of the books. But Lan actually gives her some pretty specific instructions of stuff that she can do with it. If she shows it to anyone in the Borderlands, they will give her guest right and aid. If he had to show it to, or if she had to show it to a warder, they will help her or carry a message to Lan, like drop what they are doing and carry a message to Lan. I've got in brackets here, Lan has some influence with the other warders, apparently. Or if she had to send it to Lan or a message sealed with it, he'll drop everything and he will come to her. This is like a OP, like an overpowered item in a video game that basically gives her access to Lan wherever she is, one-time use only. But it's pretty cool to know that she has everyone's favorite killing machine at her beck and call. But then Lan leaves to go prepare to leave, and is replaced by Moraine. And Nynaeve and Moraine have a pretty antagonistic conversation where, between the two of them, there's no bones about what they feel about each other. And Moraine basically just bullies Nynaeve because of the circumstances that they're in to sort of agree to go to the tower. And even says to her, if you don't come to the tower, you're not going to learn how to use the power against me.
Ultimate taunt.
Exactly. And it works, right? The Nynaeve's thoughts after that conversation.
Like, I'll show you.
We'll go to the tower and I will drag you down with the power that you teach me, you bitch.
She's stubborn.
She is, and she hates Moraine at this stage. Hey, So then we cut to Egwene, who's busy watching someone pack for her in her little room, where Nynaeve then arrives after having obviously just had this interaction with Lan and Moraine. Um, and they have a little moment where they talk about their relationship, where Egwene calls Nynaeve wisdom and sort of remarks at like how weird it is to call her that. And Nynaeve says, also, you shouldn't do that. We've left Eamon's Field behind us now, well and truly behind us. Just call me Nynaeve. And they reset their relationship, which is also on this read more noteworthy to me than it was before, because they had a very clear dynamic. I mean, I think Egwene was even studying to become a wisdom under Nynaeve. There's a comment earlier in book 1 where it would have taken her ages to become wisdom because Nynaeve was still so young, which is one of her motivations for seeking other, adventure. But they reset their relationship now to, this is not wisdom and apprentice or wisdom and patient, like when she had, what was it, bone break fever or whatever it was that Egwene had when she was young, and Nynaeve looked after her. They are now just two women who can channel, and they are agreeing to treat each other like peers before they head over to the tower, which is actually pretty cool. It's not something I remember specifically happening last time I read the series.
Their whole dynamic is going to change as well so much going forward. So it's kind of like maybe long-term sort of balancing out that.
Not least of all when Egwene becomes the Amyrlin
exactly.
Seat. There's a real power dynamic that changes there. There's a lot of commotion outside, and Egwene goes to see what it is, and she's summoned because Rand is at the door of the women's apartments again, causing a scene, as he does. Loves causing a hack in the women's apartments, basically just saying that he wants to talk to Egwene, and Egwene eventually goes and to talk to him and sort of chases everyone else away so that they can have a conversation in private. And here they have like a really, really heartbreaking conversation where Rand actually utters the words, "I guess I'll never see you again." Like they are here and now finally breaking whatever ties they had between them, knowingly and willingly. They both know, they've both suspected it. It's come up at other times, more so from Rand's side, maybe just because we've got more insight into Rand's inner monologues because of the point of view of the chapters we've been reading. But here they know it, and Rand gives Egwene a big hug, and Egwene thinks that she can hear him actually murmur into like her shoulder, "I love you," and he walks away like almost running. He walks away, and Egwene is crying, and she leaves from there thinking that yes, she probably won't ever see him again, which was pretty poignant. Like I always knew that in the beginning they were sort of like destined to marry and sort of be a couple and stuff, but to hear the two of them, or to read the two of them actually voice those feelings and everything that goes with it, because as you saw from the chapter Villy just described, Rand immediately when hearing the commotion is like Egwene. His focus was getting to Egwene. They definitely have feelings for her. And I mean, I don't think Robert Jordan would have said that Egwene thinks she hears Rand say "I love you" if Rand didn't actually say that. I believe that he did, and he must love her on some level. But this is them saying their final goodbyes to each
Yes,
other.
also in this section where he also like scolds her, "I told you not to go to Fane. Like, why did you do that? I didn't want you in harm's way," type of thing.
Yeah. And that is the end of that chapter. Jody, you look angry.
No, I'm not angry.
Are you mad at Rand?
I'm just listening to the story. Audiobooks. Just zoning out here in the sunshine. It's the lovely sun hitting me right now. I'm just kind of zoning out. Anyway, yes, I am here. I'm participating.
I really enjoyed reading up on the companions and just sort of piecing together in my own mind, because through all the years I obviously have read the whole series. I know that Tam was a soldier, and I think I even remember that it was in Ilion that he was in Ilion a soldier, but in my mind he was always just a soldier. To know that he was second captain of the companions and would have been, so like in the Aiel War, he would have been at the hottest fighting against the Aiel.
Yes.
And he walked away from that. And the Aiel, even in these chapters, are described as unrelenting killing machines themselves. Like they are.
Yeah, Ingtar mentions it in these upcoming chapters.
Yes.
I think. Yeah.
Yes. It's when he's talking about Missima and why he hates Rand.
Yeah.
He can only see Aiel, and he explains about the Aiel. But yeah, I mean, Tam fought a battle on the slopes of Dragonmount, on the slopes of a volcano, against the Aiel, and walked away with one of their babies.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
but I mean
Shwink.
that was I was just going to bring up, like, the character of a man that he was slaying these Aiel warriors literally because he would have had to stand his ground there, but then still to have that compassion and empathy to save a baby, and sort of thinking like, yeah, what was his wife's name? Oh, gone.
Carrie.
Carrie. Oh, yeah, and that going back, like, thinking about that naming, like, Rand is a strong name. There was that saying as well during the fever dreams and all of that.
Yeah.
Like there's that whole part of it. Like, man, I wish there was a book about Tam. Just
I think there was one planned. I think Robert Jordan had a book about specifically Tam planned out.
Brandon Sanderson, get writing.
What else? A lot of talking. Yeah, that's about it, hey?
Yeah, it's just point information, but there's not too much to unpack. I mean, it's more the relationships that's becoming quite. I mean, you've had the Lan handing over his ring to Nynaeve. That's a very big thing. I mean, that's like a platinum credit card when you're in the Borderlands. Like,
That's an MX Black.
You can get Amex Black or whatever they're called. Like, you can get away with anything. But yeah, and then of course the parting, or that Gwyn and Rand's whole almost breakup. You can't really call it anything but a breakup. She's crying, he's running away. It's
That's how people break up. Man runs away, and the woman's left crying.
Yes, sometimes the men cry as well. Come on, those poor guys have souls.
I wouldn't know.
Heart's hard like an Aiel. He doesn't cry.
Heart of black smoke. David Hanlon over here. All right, let's go on then to chapter 9, which is called Leave Takings. Was there leave takings in the first book as well? I feel like there's repetition of chapter names.
Yeah, I suppose lots of people are leaving.
There's another one later on that's also a repetition.
A Wolf Brother one.
No, it was. I was reading today and I came across it.
It's just like chapter 39 or something.
No, I'm only up to 29.
There's a chapter called Wolf Brother in this book as well.
Yeah, no, there's a few ones that seem to repeat over.
Cool. Spot the repeating chapter name. Fun game. Play at home. Jody, why don't you take us through leave takings?
Yes, chapter 9. So anyway, everyone's said their teary goodbyes and rings were exchanged and all those kind of things. And so this is the next day now. Everybody is in the courtyard at Fal Dara. They're in by the stables, I suppose. Everybody's packed. All the horses are packed. Everybody's running around last minute, forgetting things and running around and getting everything ready. But everybody's ready to leave, and they're all going on there. So Amyrlin Seat is leaving. She has only stayed one night, much to Anglemar's distress. Like, we only here one night, and then shadowspawn attacked us. For the first time in the history of Fal Dara, darkfriends and everybody came inside. Like, he feels so bad about it.
He does. The part that made me go is he said the king is on his way from.
Oh, yeah.
From the king's on his way. Oops.
Stay longer. I've invited. Well, everybody's coming. The king. No, she's not. She's got shit to do. She's going. It's only been one night, and off she goes. Of course, Ingtar is going to lead some men along with Rand to go and find the horn, and that's when everyone starts piling in. He sees, okay, Matt and Perrin have also joined. Loyal is also there as well, and everybody's getting together. They're all going to go down. So they've got two parties leaving: the Amyrlin Seat and all of her Aes Sedai people, and then these guys that are going to go look for the Horn of Valere, plus everything else. So we meet a couple of people in that besides Rand and all of those other guys. Who's there? Regan, or is it Reagan? Villy, clarify that for me, please.
I'm going to go with Regan.
Regan.
Excellent. Reagan it is.
Reagan it is. Missima is there. Uno is there. And and urine. How do you pronounce it?
Urine.
Urine. Urine. Sounds like urine. But this is like
Well,
this.
His name starts with an H, but after
Hurin.
that, it's urine without an E. So, yes, it's going to sound like urine.
Yeah.
Just
He's
Hurin.
Hurin. Hurin. There you go. Say it like that. You're going to say it
The
like a
thief
Scotsman.
dagger.
Hurin.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Hurin. So Hurin, who can smell with his nose, he's there as well.
Why did Jody give us a little
As opposed
bit
to
more?
other people who can't smell with their noses. Yeah, but this is what Moritz was saying earlier. Like everything's moving so fast that these people that you remember only meeting or reading about in like book 8. Oh, right, here they are. One of them was Hurin. Here he is in book 2, like chapter 9. So yeah, things are moving along quite rapidly. Awesomely, thank you. I'm glad he's here sooner rather than later. But he's the guy that can smell violence. If you don't remember, but we'll get to that. So yeah, Rand is standing over there and he's in his red cloak because he didn't have time to change. But everyone told him, I think it's Moraine told him or somebody told him that, no, we've packed you some other cloaks for the road and stuff. And he's like, okay, cool. So everyone's, his buddies come, Perrin and Matt, and they stop short of seeing him, whisper to each other. And it's always Matt because Perrin just kind of like goes along with whatever Matt says. And then they don't come up in closer. They go to the back of the columns. They're not talking to him because of still, jerk Rand scenario. Rand hasn't had a chance. And he realizes when Loyal mentions it, like, that is not a cloak for traveling, buddy. A coat, my apologies. It's this bright red thing with gold embroidery on it.
Yeah.
And he realizes, okay, that's probably why. Because they took one look at him and thought, oh, there he is, dressed like a lord, being all lordy schmordy. Lord Rand. And like, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. And no pun intended. So they're buggering off to the back of the column. They're not interested. And Loyal, of course, forgives him right away. Rand does have a moment to say, look, I'm sorry I treated you like that. And Loyal's immediately like, oh, no worries. I also say stupid shit all the time. And he's such a cool guy. Like, I love him. He's like, all right, I forgive you. Fine, we're friends again. But not so much with Matt and Perrin. But, just a bit of time. They just need time. He also has a chat there with Lan. There's a bit of foreshadowing there where he tells him about a maneuver or a strategy called sheathing the sword. And he tells him this is very, very, very important. Shut up and listen. Like, there could be a time in a fight where the only way you can get the advantage is to actually let someone stab you. Like, the cost or the result is worth the cost, kind of a thing. I suppose this explains, technically with a sword, like, to win the fight, you've got to let yourself get stabbed, but it also, as a grander metaphor, a wider scenario that could be applied to politics or anything in life, like sometimes you have to take some damage, sacrifice your queen, all those kind of things. But anyway, I think Lan literally means it, let someone stab you to win the sword fight, kind of a thing. He thinks he's crazy. Like, why on earth would I let anybody stab me on purpose? All warders are crazy. So anyway, they're having that chat, and then the Amyrlin Seat comes out. This is when Anglemar was walking past, and they only catch snippets of the conversation. He's like, no, please stay, the king's coming, blah, blah, blah. But no, not at all. She's not going to. And then the Amyrlin Seat actually comes up to Rand and his party to come and wish them all good luck. And everybody's very formal with her. Everybody bows in their saddles and everything, except for the Three Rivers boys, or the three Two Rivers boys. And this is noted by Leanne, who frowns. That's basically the Aes Sedai equivalent of screaming and freaking out. And Agelmar, whose eyes wide, and he's visibly shocked, like, who the fuck do these kids think they are? And later on, we find out that she's actually had a chat with Agelmar earlier about Rand. So I'll leave that for your guys' chapters. So at that point, he knows that these guys are special, but like they won't even bow or show any kind of deference to the Aes Sedai, which is really rare for these Northerners anyway. But anyway, she starts giving everybody their pleasantries and wishing them luck and whatnot. And while she's telling them, like, look, everybody, like, the hunt for the horn has been called in Ilion, but you guys are the true hunt for the horn. Like, we know where it is, well, sort of, and you guys are going to go hunt on it. And while she's talking, Rand kind of feels a prickling on his skin again, like someone's watching him, and the hair on the back of his neck is standing up. So he starts twirling around in his saddle, trying to look behind him to see where it's coming. And right at that moment, an arrow flashes right in front of his face and hits some poor red shirt guy in the back and kills him. and on its way past him, kind of just misses him and slices the Amyrlin Seat's arm and cuts her, but it is but a flesh wound, and kills this other guy in the background, some random dude. And everybody starts freaking out. So I'm thinking again, like, poor Angelmar. Like, he is a terrible host. He must be thinking, dear Lord, she's never going to come visit ever again.
Yeah.
So everything's freaking out. Everybody freaks out, and Angelmar sends people to go find out who this archer was. And there's a little exchange between the Amyrlin Seat, between Swan and Rand. This is like, yeah, if he was aiming for me, because they both kind of assume that, all right, there's a couple of people now that know I'm the Dragon Reborn. It's highly likely that someone's trying to shoot me. And Rand did feel something. So we're going to pause there. Thoughts?
Well,
who shot him?
I have a wild thought on that.
There are many thoughts here. But the only person that died was that guy in his red shirt at the back. Maybe someone definitely wanted to kill him. Like, just put it out
He was
there.
the target.
He was the target.
Just a red
and
herring.
this was a good assassin.
We just narrowly missed the Dragon Reborn and the Amyrlin Seat.
They were just in the way. He waited for that gap for Rand just to move. It's like, yeah, I'll slice
Exactly.
him almost.
That makes
I'll
perfect
definitely
sense.
cut her, but guy at the back, you're dead meat.
That's brilliant shooting then. Like right in between those two people to hit the guy at the back. There you go. Brilliant. That sounds wonderful. I'm not buying it. Moritz, what's your crazy thought?
I think it's Slayer.
Is he there already?
Well,
There was in the
this is
prophecy.
why maybe on camera you saw me paging through the book in the background here. In the prophecies that Varen reads off the wall, she says, Luke came to the mountains of doom. Isom waited in the high passes. The hunt is now begun. The shadows' hounds now course and kill. So that stanza means Slayer is hunting. Could that have been him? Because I can't imagine a Darkfriend or even a Madral taking the initiative to kill the Dragon Reborn.
No, they want to capture him.
Yes. But Isom's, or Luke or Slayer, his whole thing is he's a hunter. And there's a lot of talk about him, firing arrows and stuff later when he sort of crosses paths with Perrin. The fact that Rand's skin prickled, like he sensed someone watching him, and that it's happened before in Fal Dara, means that there is something a bit more than a dark friend. I don't think it's just a dark friend. I don't think Rand has spider senses.
Well, if he moves between the world of dreams,
he can get in and out of the keep at will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wouldn't there be the use of the power then, which Rand would feel?
No, I don't think he uses the power. He's not a channeler.
He's not a channeler, but he can walk in and out of the world of dreams in the flesh at will.
Yes. So that's why they couldn't find him afterwards. He just disappeared. He appeared in the keep, shot the arrow, and then disappeared. That explains that. That would... I'm sure this comes up. This is confirmed in a later book, at least, or something, right? Just we don't remember.
I don't know.
Well, I was way off in my thinking because I thought about this while reading it. Like maybe Liandrin has gotten the first lady, whatever her name is, Lady Amelisa. Sort of like, you will do this for me. But I wasn't sure who the target was in that. Was it really Rand, or was it the Amyrlin Seat? Was it Swan?
The way it's written means the target alludes to the fact that Rand is the target, for sure. Rand senses something, moves, and the arrow moves through where his head was. It's 100%
flashes
aimed at Rand.
right in front of his face.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was my theory. Just because I just read again about Luke and Isom in that previous chapter, but, the hunt has begun. Slayer has been set a quarry. And that's what he does. He hunts. He doesn't capture or convert or faff around with illusion.
He's not a faffer.
Spanning the works now. Who is he set to hunt? What is it in the hunt for the horn that he is out to get? Because Matt blows the horn eventually.
No one knows that Matt is going to blow the horn. No one's hunting Matt.
Not
that
even
arrow
Matt
was
knows
meant
that.
for Rand.
No, I think that's the strongest theory by far.
Well, of the two theories, I think.
Yes.
Well, Let's disregard my theory of the man in the red breeches and whatever shirt he was.
I like the way that you're thinking outside the box there, Vinny. I mean, that is a cool thought. Like, someone trying to kill maybe an informant or a dark friend that could have spilled the beans, and then looking for the optimal shot to make it look like an attempt on the Amyrlin life.
Like fools everyone. They don't care about that guy that's dead right now.
One thing I noticed in that section, Jody, is you said everyone freaks out, but they freak out for a split second. There's a dead guy lying right there, and then they have a conversation. It's like they don't stop for much longer than a heartbeat before just carrying on living their lives.
Yeah, I suppose up in the borderlands, people die regularly. Death
That'll happen.
That'll happen.
Bring out the
dead. The dead is already out. He's lying right there. So, also, like Swan's just like, she doesn't even flinch. She just looks at her arm, and it starts bleeding, and everybody's like, oh, no, Amyrlin Seat. She's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. I've had worse, like, I'll be fine. This is not even going to slow me down. And you just put a Band-Aid on it. Let's get going. So anyway, they do get going. Like right after that, everybody like, we'll leave this to you guys up here. Anglemar, you take care of this. We're going to go. So she gives one final rousing speech to everybody, and like, oh, you will find the horn, and you have the light on your side. Also mentions that that everyone seems to assume that the heroes that come back after blowing the horn will fight for the light. But she reminds everybody that no, it's whoever blows the horn, whether they be on the dark side or the light side. So, and everybody kind of like exchanges looks and went, oh shit, I never thought about that. So it wasn't common knowledge. Yeah. We need to get this. We need to get this now. Yeah. So while they're heading out, they get a head count back because they've already just trying to investigate who was shooting arrows. And Changu and Nidao are the only two missing out of all the soldiers. So suspicion lays heavily on them, but it's kind of weird. Like you get the impression that they're not dark friends because even Ingtar's like, what? Those two? No, those two are great. I mean, they saved Anglemar's life in the battle at Tarwan's Gap. If they were going to kill him, if they were dark friends, they would have just let him die. But I suppose, And they were good guys. They were good soldiers. They always tried to stay together. They would even swap shifts and everything. Were they very good friends? Perhaps.
Lovers, perhaps.
Yes. So who knows? Who cares? But anyway, off they go. And that's actually, I mentioned Hurren earlier, but here he gets actually introduced, and he explains his whole power to Rand. Like he's been doing it for about 4 years. It just happened. This is again a question: is it an old thing that's coming back, like Perrin's wolf brotherness, or is it a new thing because the pattern is unraveling? And
I think they're sort of pondering exactly that thought as well. Yes. No one knows outright, and they are just thinking that same thing. Like, because apparently there's other thief.
Yeah, there's another one up in the Borderlands with the king. The king has a sniffer as well. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's a Borderland thing. You live there close to the Blight for long enough, and then eventually you start smelling death.
Yeah, everyone smells death. He smells violence, and it's very intricate. He goes into it. If you want to, you go read the book about exactly what it and how it all works, and how long, like minimum violence lasts, the smell lasts longer. If it's something worse, the smell lasts longer. Anyway, there's fantasy science behind it, people.
Yes, he and Perrin have a couple of like pointed looks at each other, little smell buttons. Like when Perrin makes something smelling wrong, and they just sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, did you smell that?
Exactly. And he mentions that, look, he smelled a lot of violence in his time, but this is particularly bad, this smell. He smells the Trollocs, he smells the Fade, and he smells something worse, which we now know is Padan Fane, who he still thinks of himself as such, but he's far more, and he is something else. So everyone assumes at this point that obviously they're going to go chasing these guys into the Blight because they're darkspawn. But when they get outside, Huron sniffs the air and he's like, all right, we're heading south. And he's like, what? South? Shadowspawn? Fades heading south? Like, all right, fine. I mean, no one's going to argue with the sniffer, so off they go to the south. And that's how that section ends. And meanwhile we jump back to Ilian. Ilian's coming up a lot lately in these chapters. Yeah, and we join old Bail Domin. And he's sneaking around, is skulking around in the night through the streets of Ilian on a mission. He's got his sword. He's got his cudgel. He's got a mean look on his face. There's even mention of, because there's a festival going on, because the hunt has been called, everybody's partying. So all the pickpockets are out, ready to steal from all these drunk revelers. Yeah, these muggers take one look at him and then they just walk backwards slowly into the shadows again, like, I'll just wait for some drunk kid to come along. Pass. This guy, he's got the look of business, and he heads to an inn to go and meet some people. The inn is called Easing the Badger. I don't know what Robert Jordan's fascination was with badgers. But anyway, no one seems to know what it means either in Ilion. Not even the owner of the inn. It's mentioned that there's always been an inn called that, and they just keep calling it that. So anyway, he gets into the inn where he's going to meet these three Kehainians. Kehainians?
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't drag me into this.
Billy's passing on this one.
Carinians.
Carinians. So they want him to go to Mayin. I'm pronouncing it as? Yes, Mayin. To go and fetch.
By the way, when I agree with your pronunciation, that's only because it matches mine and not because it is correct.
No. I understand that fully. Don't worry about it.
Great.
Okay. So he's heading to Mayin. They want him to go to Mayin to go and fetch some unknown person, and they're willing to pay like 1,000 gold marks or something ridiculous. And he mentions that this is the third time somebody has approached him and tried to get him to take his riverboat into the ocean and sail east. So he's like suspicious. And every single time that he's refused, one of his guys turns up dead. So he's getting very suspicious now. But these three guys give him a parchment, give him a letter that's sealed, and they give him like half the money up front or something like that. I can't remember what the deal was exactly, but they give him a big bag of gold coins. And notably, these are gold coins from Tar Valon. So, I'm smelling a rat right here already. But anyway, he agrees to take it because obviously something's up. He's got to make a move. He can't just hang out there and let all his men die. And he, after the deal is done, those people leave, those three dudes leave, and his second in command joins him at the inn and tells him that, hey, look, I found another one of our crew members dead. And he even thinks then, like, but I agreed this time, like, and they're still killing him. And this guy not only was killed, but he was tortured to death for information. So things are getting a little heated there in Ilion for him. So he decides, look, he's getting the fuck out of Dodge, regardless of what's happening. I think it's time to leave. So they decide to leave that very night because he told the three that met him that he'll leave first thing in the morning. But he's like, all right, rouse everybody, go find them in the inns and the brothels and wherever the hell else they are. We're getting out right now. So by the time he gets back to the ship, there's people already there. His crew's already there. Some of the guys are running barefoot down the streets to try and get on the boat. They know like he's going to leave them on the dock if they're not there in time. So when he gets onto the boat, onto the spray, which is now the sea spray, I suppose, not the river spray, he gets his second in command to do all the stuff because he's going down to go and investigate this letter and all the stuff. He's like, you guys just get us out of here. I'll be in my cabin if anyone needs me. And he opens up the letter very carefully to go and it's a fake letter, obviously, from the king of Kehain. Naming the bearer of this letter to be a dark friend who must be executed immediately, no questions asked, and then all his possessions seized. The reward is you can get to keep everything except the stuff that he stole from us that are among his possessions. So now he's really suspicious, all right? Obviously, Tar Valon gold, a fake letter from a king, and to kill him, and they're after his possessions. And we know that he has some interesting possessions. And we do actually... Ooh, yes. So he goes and looks through his possessions. Thank goodness, because there's some cool stuff in there. And I will list what is in there. He has a special box that only he knows how to open, a hidden compartment. And there's a light stick in it, which is apparently like a rod of glass. And if you hold it in your hand, it lights up. So... this was a Taungriel, I suppose, created for people that didn't need to channel. Because apparently, when we learn about these later in the books, there are some that are for channelers and some that are for non-channelers. All kinds of things were created.
It's a fancy torch.
So this is a fancy torch. All you have to do is hold it in your hand and it glows brighter than any candle or whatever the thing may be. And it's very brittle. If you drop it, it shatters like glass. Okay, great.
As torches
Then
do.
there's also... yeah, don't drop your torch. and an ivory carving of a man holding a sword. Now, is this an Ungreal? Does it come back later in the books? Does anybody remember?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Because it does seem like something.
Moraine's little
Angriel is
dude
a little woman.
sitting cross-legged is made of ivory as well, I think.
Yeah. And age darkened is another thing. Like it's old ivory.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So possibly an Ungreal. We don't know.
Possibly.
And a fossilized saber-toothed tiger skull. He says the skull of a cat as big as a lion, but with fangs a foot long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and interesting stuff. He's got a really nice collection. And
He
of
does.
course, the piece de résistance is, of course, one of the seals of the Dark One's prison, which we did speculate in book 1 that he does have one of these in his possession.
When we met him, when the Trollocs were after his boat, or like when he mentioned that Trollocs had attacked them before.
Because back then they were already after him for this. What was it made of, Jody?
Heartstone.
Well played.
Well played. I will say it, Quendiyar. And it's made of that thing that's unbreakable. And he recognizes, he knows that it's from the Age of Legends. He knows that it's made of Heartstone. He knows, he recognizes the symbol, that it's the old ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai, but of course he doesn't know it's one of the seals, one of the 7 seals to the Dark One's prison.
That he bought in a shop.
That he bought in a shop, yeah. Exactly. Some guy in the dock was selling it, so he was like, "Oh, cool, I'll take it." When he saw it, he knew that it was worth something. So he was just collecting stuff, you know. But obviously he figures this must be what everyone's after. So he realizes that these are dark friends. Trollocs are after him. People are trying to kill him. They're trying to make him go places he doesn't want to go, murdering all his crew members. They're after this thing. So when they're out of the harbor, the second in command says, "All right, where do you want to go, Captain?" And instead of going east, he says, "Well, the opposite way then. West. Far, far away from where everybody wants me to go." And the guy actually, one of his second in command says, "Ibudar," and he's like, "No, even further than that." So he thinks, take me further away to safety, which is actually the opposite of safety because he's going directly into a Sean Chan invasion at this point. So, yeah, that's how far Villy knows. Villy's up ahead of us in the books. So Bale does want to go as far west as possible. And he's heading into trouble either way. Doesn't matter which direction he goes in. He's going to cuck. And that's the end of the chapter.
Now, I'm going to say something that might be really mean about Dermot. But every time I read his specific way that he speaks in his text, like the specific one that stood out for me is my possessions, eh? I can't help but hearing Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob.
So I hear a pirate, but you hear a pirate crab.
Oh, you're
right?
a pirate crab, eh?
Yeah, definitely his speech is
very
different.
piratey. I love it.
Very
I love it so much.
piratey.
Yeah. It's that's a nice little breakaway from the monotony of them taking their leave out of what seemed to be just a disaster-filled movie of everything going wrong for the one day that the Amyrlin Seat is there. And
yes,
it's just
like nine chapters up in the north, and it's only one day.
Yeah.
But it's good to see old Doman back again, and the spray, and his relentless care that he doesn't really care much about his crew. He'll sail without them, like be on the boat or don't.
Yeah, I love his attitude. I love Bale. Like he's not a character that's always like stood out to me in the past, but I do enjoy reading about him every time I do. When he leaves that inn, also Jody, I think they say that people would leave him alone because he looks like he's about to do murder.
Yes.
Stalking down the street back to his
They,
boat.
they should have given him like a stump leg or like a stick leg. It would have just
an eye patch and a hook hand.
No, not fully hook hand, but
I think the really most important parts of that was what Bale has in his possession. Those cool little artifacts. Up in the north, everyone's saying goodbye, blah, blah, blah.
He's got a lot of possessions. Like throughout all this is what he does. He collects weird and wonderful things. But I mean, they've highlighted those 4 things. So obviously the fossil of the saber-toothed tiger, that's nondescript. It's not gonna. It's just a thing to throw into the world, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not going to feature.
Yeah, the Angriel or the Tar Angriel, the light stick, that is cool. But I'm also wondering about that little figurine from
Yeah.
Ivory.
Let's keep our eyes open and see if it crops up
Mm.
somewhere and if we can draw a link back to it. Yeah, pretty bit of a transitional chapter there. Not a lot of impactful events on the like the greater storyline. Yeah, but the fact that Bale has one of the seals. There are 7, right? 7
Yep.
seals.
7 seals.
Bale has one of the seals of the Dark One's prison on his boat is pretty cool, pretty impressive.
That he bought in a shop in a port.
Totally.
That's where you find these kind of things nowadays.
Oh man, the Aes Sedai from the Age of Legends would have an apoplexy if you realized that their seals are like making their way through pawn shops.
Well, that's what time does. Don't we all go looking for a
That's-
treasure every now and then in a pawn shop?
I guess.
Well, you find them apparently. That counts for 2. So we know where 2 of the 7 are.
Mm-hmm. And his is still whole.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah, that's important.
Okay, should we move along?
Can do that.
Go for it.
Okie dokie. Chapter 10 is called The Hunt Begins. Billy, why don't you set us down that path?
Oh, and it does begin. Old Ingtar is now set for this journey. He's chomping at the bit, literally ready to run the horses to death. He's only got the horn on his mind and his mind on the horn. And yeah, so they basically set a good pace. Sniffer leading them south, which is a weird direction for them. And they keep going, and actually to the point where concern is raised, like our horses, like we actually going to lose our horses before we catch up to them if we keep on at that pace. Now, through all of this, Rand tries to ride with Matt and Perrin, but they avoiding him. A little bit of old that nastiness of Lord Rand, and it doesn't help him that he's all in fancy coats and looking all lordly, and all the men now refer to him as Lord as well, which doesn't help. And he's trying to get Horn to not call him Lord, and he struggles with it. It's like Rand, Lord Rand, constantly struggling with it. But their path is not chosen, and eventually Ingtar realizes that, okay, he can't keep running the horses like this. They need to sort of get a break and sort of take it a bit easier, set a bit of a easier pace, sort of run downhill and coast it up or something of the sort. But now Rand keeps feeling Masema sort of glaring at him, and we've got Uno there. And he's kind of like wondering, what is this, the dynamic about this? And eventually they get to the discussion when they have their first camp during that night. Now, they haven't caught up anything. That, if anything, they've lost time based on their tracking, these darkfriends that they're following. But then Ingtar explains to Rand that Masema served in the Eastern Marshes, where he fought against Aiel, and you just look like an Aiel man, and sort of bringing back everything like loyal and saying like, no, but remember the first time I met you, put a shawl around your head and you a splitting image of an Aiel man. So now Rand is constantly like bombarded by like, oh, this everyone wants me to be this, and everyone thinks I should be that, and I'm not a masked Aiel man. And anyway, but yeah, they get going the next day again, and eventually they find one of the camps where they have camped, and Huron is already like, woo, the smell's wrong. There was murder here. Like, not a good sight. But they all move in slowly, sort of to inspect the whole campsite, and Matt picks a bone out of the fire. He's like, oh, well, this doesn't look like a cow or a sheep bone or whatever, still holding it in his hand. They're like, no, the Trollocs probably ate one of the darkfriends. And I'm like, yeah, all right, this bone I don't particularly feel like holding here. But there was definitely murder. Someone murdered someone there. And there's just like the I assume it was the droppings of the Trollocs, like their filth or whatever, just a pile left over there. And they eventually head and they come to the River Erin, where there's a little village, like super small village that they spot there. But Hearn already puts them up to the fact that like this smells really off. Like you can't say exactly what it is, but it's just not cool. And they can't see anyone. There's no one in the village. Or the little town. There's no one really that they can spot. Doors open, windows open, but they search the houses. And at this stage, one of the main things that they saw a woman standing in one of the houses.
Uno, right?
Uno, yeah. And he runs in, but there's no one. But they
Ingtar shouts after Uno, "Don't frighten her!"
frighten her.
His eye patch and his gruff demeanor.
Is that Lanfear?
Well, that's the
Yes.
only thing that I can think that it's Lanfear.
All right.
But
All right.
he then sends Reagan and Massima to strip down to their breeches, stick a knife in their backsides there, and they
Hang on, wait. I think I missed that part.
Say that
they each take a knife with them. But I suspected they would put the knife in their mouth, but by the sounds of it, they stuck it in the fold in their backs.
Yes, in small
in their
clothes.
underpants,
In their
I
underpants.
imagine.
Yeah, like in their
Yes.
they crack,
Right.
like plumber crack.
Not
up
in
their
their backsides.
In the back of their
Pinky
pants.
Shinarians.
Yeah, no.
This is called sheathing the dagger.
Sheathing the dagger. Yeah, so now they grab the rope because now the ferry is on the other side and they've crossed over with the ferry. Luckily, they didn't cut the rope for the ferry because the River Erin, although it's higher up in the reaches of its where the river really starts, it's still flowing very strongly. So the two of them eventually get dunked under the water and pulled by the current, but they hold on. They get to the other end. They do their little scout and their patrol across, and then come back and take the ferry back. It's like, nah, there's not an ambush, but it's not right. So they then form two parties because everyone won't get across on the ferry at the same time. And to the amazement, like Perrin is straight onto it. He's almost in front, but he's now already having these conversations as well that it's not smelling right. He's already picked up some scent himself. And, they get to the other side, and there's some oak tree old oak tree or something, 50 paces up from the river that they go there. And at first, they looked and they thought it was like a scarecrow, a scarlet scarecrow, or scarecrows, but it turns out to be Changu and Nido that was skinned alive, like teeth glaring because their lips are probably cut off, and Matt spews.
Yeah.
That can be our second T-shirt. # Matt Spews.
Matt spews. I think they used a bit of a better word at this time. It didn't say spew, wretched or something of the sort.
Well, yeah, he's got a nice vocabulary.
He's
got
got,
all the different forms of spew.
There was many different other, but they were spewing again. But they also now in the discussion, like because they were the two missing people out of when they did the head count, it was an assumption that they were part of it. But them then being found in that position, in that style, and the discussion is that the Madrals and the Trollocs would do this to throw people off their trail, to not come for them or not to follow them, like a little bit of gruesome torture. But they still decide to do a full burial for them. Whereas the darkfriends that are murdered that they find, they're like, don't have time for this. They're darkfriends. We move on. The hunt is more important. And they call it the mother's embrace. No coffin, no cloths or anything. Just dig them a hole, chuck them in, straight sand. And then there was a little bit of a talk after they did that about going back to the embrace of mother. And yeah, then straight on back to the hunt or to the chase.
To the next murder village.
To the next murder village, the next blood murder village. This one was a little bit larger, but before that, they pass also sort of the remnants of an old city that was there, Harad Dakar. And Rand's kind of like, I haven't even seen that on a map, and a little bit of a breakdown about the histories and all these little states that formed during the period that there wasn't really someone. So there's all these little places that aren't even known. But they get the news during all of this that there's another village ahead. They weren't spotted because he continuously sends out scouts to have a look ahead in the road. And they're kind of like, okay, cool, here we go, next village. And again, they all ride into the village, sort of surrounds it, ride in. There's no one. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't like the smell. It smells pretty off. Perrin also agrees. And this Rand walks into, they decide to start searching and not chasing. They go into the rooms and into the houses. And as he walks in, he can sort of see that it's like turnips and peas with a dish, and there's still meat with a knife ready to cut into it. And then all of a sudden, he has got a bit of a, I don't know if it's a flashback or a vision of just what happened up until the point where this people were disturbed and screaming, sort of the door kicked open. But then blink and again a repeating of it. And then
it has like kind of like repeating flashbacks of the last like 10 seconds of that scene.
That scene, yeah. Which is
that one of those bubbles of evil, you think?
I don't know. I had the same thought, Joe, but I can't remember anything else resembling this sort of like flash, other than like the walk through Ruidian, but that's much more Terangriel focused and, you know, patches of history. This is completely unaided by any kind of magical item or anything. And there's also, what happens with the flies? Like every time it happens,
more
there's
flies and more flies, and eventually there's just 6 dead flies on the table.
When he snaps out of it.
When he snaps out of it, like it's, I've tried to think and read and think. None of this makes any.
Nah. These first couple books have what I've heard other people online refer to as first book weirdness, right? Like it's Robert Jordan sort of finding his feet. This is a theme that he didn't really revisit again. Like it's not really explained. It doesn't fit the rules. It's like, you know, that stuff I always talk about. Like the first couple of books have things that don't fit in the rules that he has set out for this world of magic. And this is one of those things.
Yeah, that's
also, it could be a bubble of evil. Could be Rand's power manifesting in some way.
I also thought it could have something to do with Lanfear, because she does pop up in this village as well. Maybe she's fucking with Rand. Maybe she was some sort of weave or something that he got trapped in.
Maybe.
Well, that is plausible. That can stick. I mean, she is being spotted there. It's this whole disappearing act the whole time. Don't frighten her this time.
Yeah.
But they then find something in their shouts, and Perrin sort of digs his heel into his horse's flanks, and he shoots off to where they're all at, and what would sort of be the meeting room of the small village. Not quite an inn or not quite a mayor's house or whatever, but somewhat of a central area, I would assume, in sort of the town square or green or whatever. There's a person nailed to the wall or to the door. And then they realize, and Rand sort of getting closer, realized that he's seen that black coat before. And you've seen it not rustling in the wind. And it's 2 spikes through the shoulders, 2 spikes through what I assume would be the wrists, and then 2 spikes driven through his eyes, but they weren't really eyes. So it's a madral, a fade that's spiked to a door.
I read it as now his cloak was blowing in the wind.
Yes.
Like, now that the fade is dead, the wind is actually affecting his cloak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's like, what the fuck nails a fade to a door?
This we mentioned in a couple of podcasts ago away, wasn't it?
Yes.
It's
like we knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was again this soon in the books.
I think it's when we were talking about Pattern Fan, because we all know he's the one that
Yeah. No, it's but everyone is visibly shaken by this now. This is a pretty extreme thing to be doing, nailing a fade to a freaking door. And that is where they kind of leave it. It's right there at the finding the fade nailed to a freaking door through his eyes.
Yeah. Bad day for that.
Yeah, like they also mentioned that behind his boots, there's scuff marks
That he was alive.
against the door. So he was alive while this was being done to him.
Fuck.
And yeah. I would. How did he do that? Is he that physically strong that he could hold a fade up against the door and nail him at the same time? Did he get the Trollocs to help him? I'm so interested in how he got this done.
In my next chapter, he reminisces about picking up the hammer. So he's literally using a hammer to drive those stakes in himself. So whether the Trollocs are holding up the fade or what's happening, I don't know. But Fane did the nasty work by hand.
Yeah.
That is some pretty difficult, intense stuff to do, because there was a bit of a power tussle there between Fane and the Fade, which direction to go. And that comes up. Yeah, that comes up next. I won't spoil that.
But that is why Fane nailed him to the door, because they were at odds. The Fade kept saying, "We need to be going north into the Blight. We need to be going to Shadar Logoth." And eventually Fane just couldn't handle it anymore, and he nailed him to a door.
That's what I do with people who disagree with me.
It's pretty effective.
Yeah.
They tend to stop disagreeing. And breathing and all that other stuff.
Living and flailing at the legs and kicking for life.
My first note about this chapter is Uno's first word is bloody.
We should invite him on the podcast.
Yes.
Really earn that R rating.
They also delve into like a bit of the Aiel and talking about how fearsome they are. And the note I have for that is just Aiel are hectic.
Yeah. Is that where Ingtar talks about it? Like because Matt always says like, man, you Shinarians are hard, dressed in that armor, running like this, and he goes like, man, you should meet the Aiel.
You know nothing. Aiel will run for 50. They say 50 miles,
50 miles
to a battle and then fight. It's like and then run back for some water.
Yeah, they won't ride horses.
No,
or use swords, which is a little throwback to their ancestral roots.
Yeah, 3 spears, a knife, and a bow. They have bows.
Yes, they use any weapon that can be used in hunting.
Oh, there was also mention about how about their prowess. Like if a swordsman was facing an Aiel who had just his bare hands, it would be an even fight. But only if the swordsman knew how to use the sword.
Yes,
yes, I don't fuck with these guys.
I had a note in here that I can't help but like Ingtar.
Yeah.
Even if you know he's a darkfriend, he's actually quite likable. Like the reverence with which he speaks about stuff like that. You're like, yeah, you're a stand-up guy. How are you a darkfriend?
We'll call him the conflicted darkfriend.
There is a little scene, maybe in this chapter or the next one, I don't remember, where he's kind of like he's talking and he kind of just starts rambling on about how hopeless everything is and how long until the shadow envelops everything and blah blah blah. So like maybe his dark friendness is not because he just wants to be a dick, but because he sees no hope for the future. He spent so much time fighting the dark that it seems inevitable that they're going to win.
Yeah, that's definitely the angle that I see him coming from for being a dark. What else? Grim stuff there. I had a note in one of the previous chapters about like why Robert Jordan would spare Chengu and Nadao the fate of being decapitated in that guard room, but they weren't spared anything.
They were captured,
played and hung from a tree.
It kind of like left the thought that they were the betrayers or the traitors.
Well, what no one knows is that they were affected by the dagger.
Yeah.
So, they could have been doing Fane's bidding. They could have been the ones that killed the guards at the dog gate. But you also learn again in the next chapter that Fane has 12 remaining dark friends with him. So there's a number of dark friends from Fal Dara that are traveling with him. I assume they're from Fal Dara. Some at least are, but others could have come from elsewhere. But it doesn't necessarily mean that Ingtar or Chengu or Nadao were the ones, the persons that let them in the gate. But yeah, I don't know that they were darkfriends.
No, and I think that's what's the dispute with Ingtar there. That like it's you can't prove it. Like give them a decent burial, give them mother's embrace.
Yeah, that's another reason to like Ingtar, right? Like everyone else doubts that no one was going to say anything at this funeral, and then Ingtar is the one. The Darkfriend is the one that actually gives the words.
The light welcome you and the last embrace of the mother and all of that stuff. It's weird coming from him, knowing what we know.
These men saved Lord Agelmar, and for that alone, they deserve a send-off. Okay, so on that grim note, then let's go on to the last chapter for this episode, chapter 11. It's called Glimmers of the Pattern. We join the team the next day, or later that day. It's them making camp, but much sooner than they ordinarily would have. Ingtar calls a halt to the march while the sun is still well high up in the sky. And they make camp in sort of this natural hollow with these sort of ridges all around it so that they're hidden. This is when Uno mentions to Reagan, I definitely saw her again in the town. It's got to be Lanfear, right? She's in the prophecies that we read about earlier. You meet Selene in the Portal Stone worlds later in this book, who we know is Lanfear. So all signs point to Lanfear skulking around these towns and watching these guys, sussing them out. But Ingtar gives Rand a package from Moiraine, which he says she asked to give to Rand as soon as they crossed the river Earnest and made camp for the first time. Now, how the fuck did Moiraine know that they were going to go that far south? If all signs point to the horn being stolen by darkfriends, even the Midral sort of arguing that they should be going to Shire Ghul, Moraine's hanging a lot on like, okay, in case you guys go south, and as far south as crossing the river Erenin, then give this to Rand. Which was weird.
That's right. I never thought about that.
Anyway, Ingtar gives the package to Rand. He also says to Rand that, oh, by the way, if anything happens to me, you're in charge.
Yes.
And Rand is like, what? No. What? No, I'm a sheep herder. And he goes, dude, this is it. This is the way. He says, before any troop of soldiers like this set out, they know the pecking order down to the last man. Because I think the way he explains it is like, even if it is just down to the last man, that they won't give up. They are then the one in charge, and they are then the one to see the mission through to the end because they are in charge. And Rand says, but Uno's never going to go for this. He's obviously your second in charge. And he goes, Lord Agelmar called myself and Uno into his office. The order came from him, not from Moiraine. You are 2IC. And it's like, this is madness. And Ingtar just says to him, look, I also don't know what this is about, but you have the look about you like that you've got a good head on your shoulders. I'm sure you'll do fine. Just know that this is the case. And that's obviously when you realize why Uno has been stink-eyeing Rand. Keeps sussing him out, like wondering probably, who the fuck is this guy? Like, who is this person that's been put in charge ahead of me, straight under Ingtar? So anyway, Ingtar says to him, all the Lancers also already know this. It's not just him and Uno. They all know that Rand is second in charge, so just get used to the idea. At this point, I'm wondering like what Massima thinks of that, because Massima doesn't like him. So then Rand sneaks off with the package to go see what this thing is that Moiraine has given to him, and he sort of finds a clearing in the trees where no one else is around, and he unfolds it, and exactly as everyone suspected, to no surprise, it is the dragon banner. Which interestingly Rand describes as also like not being woven. It's not fabric. It's just this solid thing that behaves like fabric. It's weird. It's obviously a thing of the Age of Legends. It was Lews Theron's own personal banner. And while he's looking at this thing, obviously Matt and Perrin come blustering into, oh God, here is what's he got now? Lord Rand, what is this flag he's going to be lording over us now? And then sees what it is, because obviously they were also at the Eye when they found it. And in their conversation here, Rand just says, fuck, I didn't want this, Moraine sent this, the Amyrlin sent this. They think I'm the Dragon Reborn. And Matt's like, what do you mean? Or Perrin asks him straight up, like, can you channel?
Yeah.
And Rand just spills the beans. And Matt has a typical Matt reaction, and Perrin has a typical Perrin non-reaction.
Yeah.
But in this moment, Matt basically says to Rand, you need to get the fuck out of here. I just don't want to be around you, Like, I heard stories where they talk about one male channeler that leveled an entire town around him. He woke up in the morning and everything except his bed was completely flattened, like a mountain had rolled over it. And Perrin says to him, according to that logic, you should be sleeping cheek by jowl with Rand.
Yes. Safest place is attached to him.
But Matt is very, very dismissive of Rand, and he's basically said, look, you just go somewhere where you're not going to hurt anyone, and, sort of walk away. And at the end of the conversation, after Matt has left, Perrin sort of says to Rand, like, look, man, if I were you, I would burn that thing, and I would also I would disappear. I would go away. And when I read this, I realized for the first time, especially this early in the story, and this is what I was alluding to earlier when Rand says goodbye to Egwene, that their bond as friends is strong, but in this moment and multiple times after this, after they split up and stuff, they pretty much part ways under the impression that they are not really going to be fast friends anymore. They know the party is over. I got a real sense that, that friendship doesn't count for a hell of a lot anymore. Too much stuff has happened. Even like if you think of how loyal Rand and Matt were to each other when they were traveling, just the two of them. And, Matt was sick from the dagger and Rand was sick from channeling, and they really, really, really looked after each other. At this point, I don't know if they ever repair the classic three-friend relationship anywhere near the levels of what it used to be. And it just hit me a lot harder this time. Maybe off the back of reading that thing about Egwene as well, and now being older and more mature and actually having real emotions, and not like the teenager that I was when I read this the first time. But I don't know, it struck me as really poignant that Matt, in his way, sort of says, okay, Rand, fuck off. And Perrin, in his own way, is also like, yeah, dude, this is not going to end well. You should go be by yourself somewhere. It's no like, don't worry, we'll get through this, or we'll run away together. Or it's okay. You're a guy that can channel. Cool. We're pretty much done with you.
Yeah.
Which goes a long way to explain Rand's sort of, Lone Ranger attitude to life from this point forward. Like, he's always trying to save everyone around him by not being around and being so reluctant to bring anyone in. He walls everyone else off, which, is a trope in itself, but he maintains that pretty unwaveringly for the rest of the series.
Well, you could ask, and did they have the deep connection that we thought they did from the beginning? Or was it always just they were buddies because they were literally the only three people in the town that were the same age?
I had the exact same thought process. I don't know. I mean, they talk about times when they climbed, the sand hills or the cliffs at the sand hills together, and, even Perrin could climb those, and they have a history.
Okay.
But they're not such like, I mean, they have a history with Will Elsene and, like some of the Copland, like they all have a history, like you said, purely by virtue of growing up in the small, tiny town. I don't know that the bond was ever so. They just happen to be the ones that, when Matt meets Rand in town, when he and Tam bring the apple brandy and stuff into town, like,
the good old
like,
days.
oh, let's get into some mischief, because this is the guy that he's always getting into mischief with.
Yeah.
But it's not like they have these secret team meetings with handshakes and stuff. Where, fuck everybody else. That never happens. And the ease with which Matt sort of distances himself, Matt especially, Perrin less so, because Perrin is more thoughtful, but Perrin in this conversation is also like, yeah, man, it's probably time for us to part ways. And they do it with little to no resistance.
Yeah. There's also the fact they're coming from this jerk Rand scenario.
Yes.
So that's also fresh in their minds.
I mean, yeah, and Rand is explaining to them why he did that, but the damage is done,
Yeah.
and they're sort of going, well, I kind of understand why you were being a jerk. You were a jerk. I understand why. I'm going to go now because all your reasons are valid.
Yes. So you were a jerk, and now you're going to kill me with your madness. It's even more reason for me to go away from you.
Matt asks him in the conversation, wait, hang on. How are you feeling? Are you mad yet?
Yeah, like, are you already mad?
And Rand throws a pebble at him or something. I think when you
Oh, like in this conversation as well. I think Perrin tells Matt several times to shut up. Shut up, Matt.
yes. So anyway, my note is Matt can't get away from Rand fast enough. So they leave, and Rand packs up the dragon banner, sort of makes his way back to the campsite, and he stuffs it in his saddlebags, and he sees that that Euron is busy making his bed near where Loyal and Rand ostensibly would be sleeping, and he asks if Rand minds. Sort of struggles with Rand's appropriate form of address as well, because he also doesn't believe that Rand is not a lord from the south somewhere. But I think as they're going to sleep, Loyal mentions this interesting stone here that looks like it's been worked.
Mm-hmm.
The stone looks like it might have formed part of a column with some weird inscription on it.
Yeah.
And I haven't read ahead at all, but this is a portal stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I think. Yeah, is that the one? Because I remember them sleeping next to a stone and waking up in an alternate dimension or whatever the fuck happened. Okay.
And to further strengthen that memory, as Rand falls asleep, the void comes to him.
And he channels.
He's falling asleep, and it comes to him naturally, and he assumes the void as he's falling asleep while he's pondering how Moiraine is trying to manipulate him. Did she give him the banner so that he would run away, in which case he won't run away? Or did she give him the banner so that he wouldn't run away and meet his destiny, in which case he will run away? Like, he just wants to do his Manetherin thing and do the opposite of what anyone else is trying to force him down to.
The whole, does she think that I think that she thinks that I think?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like stubborn.
Also, there's a moment, there is manipulation here because he does want to change his coat. And when he opens up the package, there's only two other coats. And one of them is black and one of them is pure white. Like, none of them are riding coats. Like, fuck you, man.
Yes. And they all have herons on them and like
on the collars.
Yeah. So anyway, as Rand falls asleep, we cut to Paden Fane, who is staring north, probably because that's where the boys are, where Rand is, and he's sort of thinking to himself, I don't think he loses sense of him just then. I think he loses sense of him at the end of the chapter, but we'll get to that. So then he's talking about thinking about all the Trollocs and all the humans that they brought, and how he shouldn't have let the Trollocs, while he was busy with the Fade, the Trollocs went and collected every single person from the village. Of course they were going to do that because they're greedy and gluttonous. But he gives the Trollocs the order to, he's got a bunch of darkfriends sitting in front of him. They're all sort of like looking disheveled and dirty and quite frankly terrified. And the Trollocs on the other side of the fire, he tells them, all right, all these villagers that you guys brought, go kill all of them, and to leave some of their remains and not eat everything, and to stack it all up in a pile, and all the heads to be stacked together right on top. And he even says neatly now, go. And the Trollocs are like afraid and they go do it. And the level of detail in the explanation of what's going on in the background here is quite upsetting. Like the sounds of like people
Squishing,
squelching and like thunking, and the shrieks of children, and then that going quiet, like it is hectic. So the dark friends sitting around the fire are shitting themselves, right? Like, I mean, these guys they've seen what Paden Fane has done to a Madral. They've seen what he's ordered them to do. They've witnessed the flaying of Chengu and Nadao. This is not pleasant company. And when one of them pipes up and says something, he sort of looks at them and he goes, what do you think you are to me? You're just cattle, and the casualness with which he says that is what really freaks them out. You're just cattle for me to feed to the Trollocs whenever I feel like it. You're only useful to me at the point of me actually making use of you. And that's when they all sort of clamor to talk about how useful they are. But he just turns his back on them, and he just walks off from them to go lie down, and he unsheathes his dagger and he puts it down on top of the golden chest in which the Horn of Valere is, which he notes he has not figured out how to open yet. So he hasn't been able to get to the horn to actually blow it, which is a godsend.
Yeah, because he would have already instantaneously.
Yep. But he knows that everyone has seen what this blade can do, and they wouldn't come within like a couple of meters of it. So he just puts it down on top of the chest, and that is security enough that no one would touch the chest and try and like steal the horn or anything from him. But he's sort of lying there, and then his awareness of Rand goes away. And he mentions that this sometimes happened at Fal Dara as well. Like he would stop or he would stop sensing Rand. And I was wondering, is this when Rand assumes the void?
That's what I was thinking.
Just because they mention Rand assuming the void while he's going to sleep, while Paden Fane is going to sleep, he also suddenly loses his sense. Rand would have assumed it a number of times while doing sword practice and stuff at Fal Dara. I thought maybe it's when like Moiraine is around him, but that wouldn't account for what's happening right now.
No.
So it might be that. I mean, if only Rand knew that he could assume the void to hide from Paden Fane, that's very useful information. But he's sort of like talking to himself about how they will meet on Toman Head, and how it'll finally be done there, like how he will finally be rid of Rand al'Thor and he will finally see him dead, which is, part of the prophecy that he scrawled on the door. Now, my question is this: is this part of a dark prophecy? How does Paden Fane know that he and Rand are going to meet at Toman Head? Because how does the dark prophecy know about this thing that Paden Fane has become and that he will be there?
No, that's a big glaring gap there.
So how does Paden Fane know that he and Rand are going to meet at Toman Head?
Maybe he's going to Toman Head and he knows that Rand's following him.
Why?
I don't know. You're going to have to ask him. I don't know why he's going to Toman Head. There's good restaurants.
Excellent seafood.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm struggling to sort of combine the, More Death, Paden Fane, the Dark One's Hound with the Dark Prophecy. Maybe the Dark Prophecy knew that a being of the shadow would somehow be consumed or morphed with more death. And
well,
that something
prophecies of the dragon can foretell that the dragon will be there to fight the final battle. So maybe he's the opposite of the dragon. He's the ultimate antagonist. It's
the Agent Smith, if you will.
Oh, stop taking words out of my mouth.
I can see you forming the thought. Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
I suppose we'll just have to read on and find out. Hopefully this does come up in the book. Google it.
As well, the prophecy that was written there, we don't know that it's Paden Fane that wrote that.
Paden Fane wrote some of it.
Paden Fane wrote on the al'Thor bit that Rand rubbed off. But
which said that I will meet you on Toman Head.
But the other part of it, that all that Varian copied down, was written in Trolloc script. So that I don't think Paden Fane can read and write Trolloc script.
How is that relevant?
It's possible he knows that because he knows a bunch of stuff he didn't know beforehand because of the melding and the history and all the Dark One manipulations.
And he has been put in contact with Fades and Trollocs for many years. Maybe he does know how to read Trollocs.
But they stuck him in the cookpot and tortured him. I don't think they sat down and did lessons with him.
Learn your letters today.
What the Trollocs wrote on the walls of those cells and things, that is not the only source of the Dark Prophecy. Like, he might be well aware of the entire Dark Prophecy by virtue of being a dark friend. I'm sure at your first dark friend induction, you're probably meant to recite it. You know, like,
You're given a little black book, all new initiates.
In all the different tongues of the lands.
yes. But what I mean is that he wouldn't have had to read what the Trollocs wrote on the wall. He probably knows the dark
Yes.
prophecy already.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know why, in his current form as not just a dark friend, as this more death being, he is still going to Toman Head for reasons and is destined to meet Rand there.
Or maybe he just thinks he wants to fill the gap of the prophecy. Like, all right, well, this is where it's going to go down, so I'll put myself there.
To the internet.
To the internets we
Yes. I'm looking at the map now. They are fucking far away from Toman Head.
They are literally across the entire land. They are right up against the spine of the world.
Yeah.
And Toman Head is like in the middle of the west coast on the Arath Ocean.
And Felmate's on the tip of Toman Head, which is pointing out into the oceans, like even further away, as far as you can get west, while not leaving Randland. Huh. And also, these chapters take days, because it's day after day after day, and they haven't even traveled. I mean, the river Irinan is way up in the north. It's only the border of Shinar. So this entire time, they're still inside the borders of Shinar. They only just left.
Yes.
Yeah, just as soon as they cross the river.
Yeah.
I don't remember how they get across the continent.
Portal stones.
Everybody?
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I also don't
Billy
remember.
knows.
Yeah.
Billy's ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy's not going to tell us anything.
I go back to the ways at some point as well. I just don't remember when.
Billy's eerily quiet, suspiciously so.
I will keep myself, of my chapters that I've read to myself for now, so that I can have
don't have
content
to,
for the
really.
next podcast. No, at the moment, Rand is traveling a great deal of distances from the portal stone. So,
No.
and he recognizes that as they're moving with Celine to track down the horn and the dagger.
Okay, so they do travel across
Vast
distances
distances.
using
And
portal stone.
actually to the point where they go too far, I think, and have to come back.
They end up in Shawnshan, don't they? I'm sure of it.
Oh, yeah. That rings a bell.
Whoops, overshot it. Gotta go back.
Go back. Back it up.
We missed our exit.
Painfriend makes a comment about the Dark Friends, saying each one of them was mired as deeply as he had been before he found his way out. So he's killing Fades and ordering Trollocs and stuff around, but he's not acting in his capacity as a Dark Friend
He's a
anymore.
rogue agent. He's a true Agent Smith.
Yeah.
He's I think, and that's Shadar that's taking him over. Like, it's not of that dark cult group that all can form. It is its own evil. It's its own little entity that
Totally.
doesn't conform to the rules of any others.
No. Which is why the wound in Rand's side never goes one way or the other. The Dark One's taint and power is in constant conflict with the evil of Mordeth and Mashadar, which is why what Rand does with the taint on the power eventually is so poetic. Channels it all to Shadar Logoth and then turns it into an arid hole.
And then the prophecy is fulfilled. Full circle.
Jody's prophecy.
Jody's
The fun of
prophecy.
the cycle.
Also, equally unpronounceable.
What else, guys? I mean, whew, grim stuff.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about this grim stuff anymore.
It is pretty darn hectic. How?
Yeah.
And I mean that obviously puts to light, I think, really the emphasis of people not wanting to go to Shadar Logoth and the evil that's living in there, because it is truly evil. And I mean, if you look at the stuff that was done there by Mashadar, and that's that whole evil that formed Mordeth, it's pretty rough.
I think Mordeth came first, right? he was there and he got in the king's ear and everything. Shadar was the thing that was quite gifted to him from the elfin and the eelfin.
But I mean, the same thing poisoned him. It's Mordev is part of that. He's a catalyst. Yeah. Now Fane is a unique evil. Like he is truly actually a force to be reckoned with.
I think the first time you actually see him use Shadar is when Rand is busy fighting a Blade Master in disguise in that huge marquee tent somewhere at some function. And when Mordev appears, Shadar actually appears there as well. Do you remember that, Joe? Your face says no.
I do now. I remember that. I had not remembered it before that, but now, like, yeah, of course. Now that you mention it,
Every now and then, I'm going to throw memory hand grenades into the conversation to see.
Please do.
This
man.
Every little recall to to what I haven't reread now again is a memory hand grenade for me. Here and there's a few things that stand out that I do remember very well. Do my wells.
But they're few and far between.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's almost like reading a new story for me, to be honest.
It's so great. I fucking love it. Did you guys remember to pick a favorite moment?
I did. Yeah. I'm so proud of myself.
I was looking straight at you when I asked that question, Joe.
I know. I could feel your eyes on me. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. Skin was tingling.
I forgot to leave my isom form behind.
Yeah, that's your first mistake.
Okay, so was there anything else that you guys wanted to cover before we go to favorite moments?
I think we covered all of that. That's a good one.
I'm done talking about murder villages and the squelching of children.
I mean, right? That's heavy going shit.
So,
my favorite moment is going to be quite a light one, so I'll leave that for the end, so we end on a positive note.
Right on.
What do you got, Joe?
I've got the moment that Rand leaves the audience with the Amyrlin Seat and Varen, and then like as he leaves the room and the door closes, and Swan actually sighs a long breath, and Varen wipes sweat off her forehead and goes, "Wow, he is strong." Like because there's a moment in that he's watching them and he's freaking out and he's looking at all of them, and many times that he mentions their faces are so serene, like nothing is phasing them, but inside they are freaking the fuck out. And we get to see that after he leaves, like, whew, this is going to be crazy.
On this reading, like when you really are starting to internalize that threat that a male channeler poses to the world, I'm seeing him a lot more like the live hand grenade that he is. They are freaking out because he is like the embodiment of chaos and destruction standing in their midst. That is a very cool moment.
That's a good one. I like that.
How about you, Vil?
I call it mic drop Varen. When she just spills the beans to Swan and Moraine. It's like, oh, these two boys, you got the Dragon Reborn there and blah, 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 blah. Like, you have been planning this for 20 years. Like, I saw through all of it. Like, boom.
Yeah. She's become, over the years, she has become just quietly creeping up in my ranking of characters. Like she's getting up there, and especially now, like I've only read the story once, knowing that she was Black Arja, so I'm super keen to read all of her content now, that knowledge and putting that.
And she plays a big part now in the coming chapters as well.
Yes, I'm sure, and many books. I mean, she's around till the very end. Yeah,
Moritz.
In true Moritz fashion, I had two that I struggled to choose between. The one was Lan just going, Taishar Manetheren, as Leanne closes the door, to sort of give Rand a bit of backbone.
That made my eyes tear up in the book. I literally teared up at that moment.
I mean, it is very, very cool. But I'll be honest, and the one that I wrote down as my favorite moment is when Perrin goes to visit Matt after he was healed by Swan, Leanne, Varen, and Moraine. Leanne comes in there and she sort of, when she grabs him by the face and she delves and she checks him out, that sort of thing, and she has a conversation with him. She's sort of standing in front of him, and eventually when he wants to leave, he picks her up, He takes his hands, puts them under her arms, and he picks her up, moves her out of the way, and puts her down, and then walks off. And she is just completely shell shocked. Like, this is the keeper of the fucking chronicles, the second in charge of the Amyrlin Seat, and Perrin literally just picks her up, moves her out the way, and walks off. God
Totally
damn, I love you
forgotten
for
about that. That's right. I remember because he's just as shocked at doing it as she is. It's just like, listen, I don't have time for this. I got to go. Out of my way.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Hashtag beefy boy.
Oh, yeah. Martin and I were talking about that. We have to get T-shirts made for our podcast. And the first one's going to be Beefy Boy.
Yes.
No one will know what it means, but we will.
Anyone that had to read that on my body would know instantly that it was being ironic.
Yes.
Okay, well, gentlemen, we did it. That was a record recording session, I think, for a couple of chapters, which we probably would not have thought up front would generate a lot of conversation. But here you have it.
A lot of information.
Oh, man. And I'm sure we made so many missteps and misinterpretations. So I will use this opportunity to let everyone know we welcome and want your feedback. We really want to be corrected. The whole point of doing this podcast and having these conversations between the three of us is to sort of wrap our heads around, what some of our own theories might be and what some of the mysteries are. So where we do get things wrong, we really want you guys to fill in the blanks or correct us. And you can do that easily by following the links to our social media in the episode description. The quick ones for Twitter are at Blood and Ash Pod, and on Facebook we're just Blood and Ashes Podcast, and our website is bloodandashespodcast.com, where you can also leave feedback that'll make its way to us, and we will definitely be reading out any corrections or input that you guys have on our episode. So if you feel like getting a shout out, do reach out. Next episode we will be covering chapters 12, Woven in the Pattern, through to the end of chapter 17, called Choices. So, Jody, have you read ahead?
No, I have not. I was hoping to get some insight from those chapter titles, but really nothing
Sometimes
there.
they don't give away anything, do they?
Choices, yes. Wow. Okay.
First time someone has to make a choice. Did you guys want to finish off with anything?
Well, there's a chapter in there called Kingslayer.
Ooh.
Okay, there we go.
Excellent. Okay, well then on that note, I will say thank you, gentlemen, for another rousing episode, and I will see you both next time. Farewell.
Thank you.
Adios.